Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Just waiting for all my streaming software to synchronize with everything. It's a little bit sluggish. Oh, that's the number I'm looking for. Okay, let's see. Yep. All right, so I hear my voice on that one, so I'll close that out pretty quick. Oh, so really fast, folks. I'll make a quick announcement here. For those of you who are into other forms of um, getting your streams and want to have access to my material, um, I just want you to know that I did a I kind of configured everything on Rumble today to try to get that venue going a little bit with my material. I've been kind of keeping an eye on it for a while, trying to see like where I wanted to place my energies into as far as like, I don't like to spread myself to, I mean, I don't mind being on multiple platforms. It's just a lot of work to manage it in my situation. I don't have people helping me. I have to do it all by myself. So, um sometimes like trying to keep up with like all the different accounts is just difficult, but I also understand the need to diversify and get into other forms of channels, and I didn't want to rely completely on YouTube ever. And so what I did was, I've already done this on BitChute for those who use that platform. I already synchronized to that one a long time ago, but it started to desynchronize about 2 years ago, right when I started doing material on SAIC, coincidentally. Probably not, but like right when I started doing like the most like direct and like boom 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 thing after thing after thing, and really showing people in live presentations. I did some really like intense ones that were like 3 hours long, like two nights in a row. And then as soon as I did those, my BitChute channel basically got desynced from my YouTube. And those unfamiliar, if you're a content and a creator, there's different ways that these newer channels that are that aren't YouTube, where they let you sync up your content to to the other venues. So if you're a Rumble fan, then you can find my clips on Rumble now. They just basically just import, I guess, and directly reference it. How it works, I haven't clicked on one yet to even find out. I just did this. So anyways, the link is inside the description. It's also, I think, on my main, no, it's not the description. It's on my main channel. So, but you can find it there now under Gabriel Cruz Research. So there's that announcement. Um, and all right, let's see. So I wanted to get this going pretty quick. I want this to be relevant for, whenever. So um, basically, I want to start talking about, um, you know, uh, you're welcome to speak whatever you want to in here, but as you know, most people are speaking English. So if you want to communicate with the rest of the chat board, you'd be better off trying to do a translate instead of making the folks in here do it. No offense to you, but I don't mean that in any negative way. It just means if you want to join the chat, those who are doing things in German, probably be a good idea to do that, unless it's just designed to do things that are more of the trolling design, which is, we can take care of that pretty quick. So no worries. I do it by laughing it off, but if it's serious, you may want to just switch to speaking in English. So because we are going to be having a serious discussion about paperclip Nazis and things like that. So I have a tendency, guys, if I seem a little bit cynical to that particular approach, it's because that's usually what that amounts to, is just being trolled by Nazis. And America has a really primitive understanding of Nazism. I think it's getting more sophisticated more recently, but it's bizarre how there's so many American Nazis that populated going all the way back to 1945 and pre-existed even World War II happening. Guys, in fact, maybe I should show this to you first, actually, to really set the stage here, because a lot of people, I was personally, like, I've researched this a lot, and it wasn't until I started running across, like, I was researching things involving like paperclip. I've started finding, when I was trying to just do image searches to get some slides, I started finding more information from like authors like Annie Jacobsen, for example, wrote a book on it. And so and for the record, guys, I have got quite a few of like those pictures of Nazis and things like that were sourced from Annie Jacobsen's book. I try to place that as many places as I can, but if I missed it ever, that's where those come from. Photos like the Walter Schreiber one and things like that. But that book basically details Operation Paperclip in a more, comprehensive way than I think has probably ever been done. And but basically, there's been a lot of whitewashing of Nazi history in America to where people really have a completely confused concept of what one is. And they sort of have this bizarre notion. Most people in America, for example, accept this weirdly narrow liberal defined definition of it being sort of a neoconservative fascist who's into white supremacy and racial supremacy. And here's the bizarre thing, guys. Like it is and it isn't that. It's so much more complex and more because Nazism in truth, and people are becoming more aware of this now, is a multi-ethnic group. They come from all over the world, and Nazis are placed all over the world, and there's people that identify as Nazis all over the world that have all kinds of different colors and complexions. And the strange thing is that people at this point in time are being very, very misled and misdirected and being shuffled to different extremes of like making, like if you're left or right, if you're still thinking that way, right? If you're still thinking that way, then what I'm suggesting to you is that, abandon it, because, and I think this audience is more sophisticated. They've mostly started doing that, but there's still this element of, what do you want to call it? There's still this element of basically kind of having like the head in the sand, the ostrich with its head in the sand type perspective on how much Nazism has truly influenced our culture here, and the understanding of where that began and the origins of where it began. And that's why I put as the thumbnail slide on this presentation something that I've posted multiple times in multiple venues. It's just a summary of information that I've pulled from all over the place about Operation Paperclip and a couple of Nazi scientists that had their histories whitewashed in America, just to give people like in one slide where they can get a lot of information at once and go do their own research from there. Okay. And it gives, like, all they have to do is zoom in on it. I put them in high definition, and so they can go in and learn about von Braun. They can learn about Walter Schreiber. And then I give people who have like not as big of an understanding, who've never looked into Paperclip, I go, all right, let's just start with this. If you still kind of have a Hollywood junk food mind perspective on this, and that's okay, because most of us do. Okay, it's fine, myself included, guys. I'm not even pretending to be that sophisticated. I just, when you shake a tree and you find some Nazis come out, if it's a family one, then yeah, you tend to like express a little bit more interest if you're not that thing, And so what I tried to do was explain to people that within America, like, you know what, I need to get that article. Actually, the first thing I need to do is show you guys, I think, from the 30s, because I'm already starting to forget to do that. So hang on really fast. Let me find that very briefly. YouTube. So there was in Madison Square Garden, there was this Nazi rally. I gotta look it up real fast. Oscars, film shows, Nazi rally. There it is. All right, there's a quick public domain video that won't get anybody. Hang on really fast. Let me switch over. All right. So again, I was a little bit surprised to learn this about American history, that there was already a lot of American Nazis that were setting camp up here in America and setting up considerable rallies and support for Hitler. And, I want you to consider that, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about what Operation Paperclip did. it suggests that when we lost World War II, there were a considerable portion of the American population that were very upset that we had dissidents living within America that were loyal to Hitler and loyal to the Nazi agenda, that were working on behalf of the Nazi agenda from America. And it's bizarre because you almost never hear this in our lore in Hollywood surrounding spies, don't you? How many spy movies have you seen about there being Americans loyal to Nazism here in America during World War II and partnering with German Nazis to destroy America? It's bizarre because I can't think of a single one. And I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm saying if you can think of one or find one for me, please do. Because this shows you how much the Nazi Party has actually controlled Hollywood, even things that you consider to be, quote, liberal and understanding and caring and compassionate. It's still all Nazi the hell up because you really almost never get down to the real truth. The films obscure the truth, even when they're working your heartstrings. And I love a lot of these films. I'm not saying they're all bad and not everybody who makes them is, and not everybody who's in them is. I don't believe that. I think you'd have to be a pretty cynical person to believe that everybody is. So, but you have to know, though, that the Nazis have considerable influence in our media environment. And it began pre 1945, but 1945 is when everything sort of like was kept under cover. And it's like ever since the Nazis came here in 1945, they've just been putting like a little eraser on their history and whitewashing everything to do with them, taking control of our media, our space program, our corporations. And it was all done right underneath our noses. And so I appeal to the rest of the world in that way too, to say, like, you guys, like, I'm sitting here as a person that's a little bit more aware, and it took me a lot of time, even having a lot of these like activities surrounding me. Oftentimes it took me a very, very long time to wake up to what was going on. The voodoo these people do at a frequency level is extremely sophisticated, and it's forgivable, and I do ask for people's compassion for those of us who have not figured it out yet, myself included. The things that I still have yet to learn, that others are going, dude, wake up. Again, everybody has like stages that they're capable, but I know I've like figured a lot more out now than I knew back in 2017, for example. Like, I barely knew shit back then. And I was just starting to, like, 2016 was when everything really started to open up, but I was like completely naive. I mean, when it came to all this esoteric things and its connection to Nazism. And then as I started digging deeper and poking and asking more questions, I started wondering why there was people that were close to me and my family that seemed to have gotten away with some pretty heinous crimes. And I was like, how did that happen? And why did it happen? And under whose direction did it happen? And I couldn't get any answers from my family. So I wound up having splits with them that were, and I'll explain that in some of these articles that I play tonight. I had splits with some of my family because they just wouldn't answer the questions. They wouldn't be direct. They wouldn't be honest with me about some pretty awful things that had happened from some of the members of my family. And I was kind of going. And so as I dug deeper and deeper, I started finding that they were all close to this transfer of Nazis in 1945 to America, but under a different program than Paperclip. Paperclip's the one that everybody talks about, but nobody talks about the one that my family's from. And it is provable. It's documented. It's here in America. There's documentation associated with it, but for some strange reason, it's just not discussed. It's like people act like it does not exist. So I'm going to show you this article really fast here. This is from YouTube. It's not an article. It's just it's a public domain press thing from like the press reel they used to show in theaters, showing, like, back in the 30s, guys. It was just showing this as a different perspective for America. It's like, hey guys, there's this guy Hitler over here and he thinks this way, and maybe you think this way too. It's kind of like that, right? Trying to warm people up to the agenda so that we hadn't gone full blown whatever yet. So check this out, because it'll freak you out if you didn't know about this.
Uniforms, but they wrap themselves in the American flag. They preach the doctrine of racial and class hatred, for Hitler had said America could be conquered from within and fall as an overripe plum to the nut.
Guys, I want you to think about, I'm going to play that back again. They wore Hitler's uniforms, but they wrapped themselves in the American flag. Now, remember what he said. Hitler told them that America could be conquered from within by the Nazis, with the Nazis. Now, what happened to America? Did we actually, guys, it seems to me like what happened in World War II was that it's like two different wars happened. And the Russians won one form of World War II, and America actually lost. So the Russians won on their front because that happened in a completely different part of the world. As far as history is concerned, though, it was almost like, yay, we all won World War II, we defeated Hitler. And it's kind of like, you think about it, though, it was really what really ended it was that thing that happened over there on the border with Russia. And so they have a thing called Victory Day where they celebrate and they're very proud of conquering the Nazis and defeating them. And here in America, do we have anything that specifically addresses conquering the Nazis or World War II? When we celebrate anything specific to it, we have ones that talk about like all of it and all the veterans, but almost nothing dedicated to that specific thing. Whereas they consider it a great a source of pride that they defeated the Nazis. You know, and you won't find any glorification of Nazis there that I'm aware of. Somebody tell me if there is. But no, they completely denazify things in Russia. Whereas here, we're all just like going, yeah, von Braun's really cool, right, guys? Right? I'm going to show you something I found on YouTube today. In fact, somebody did it today. They literally just put something up glorifying von Braun, going, you know, this great engineer who designed all these rockets once said, and I'm like, and he's a Nazi. What the hell, you guys? Why? I mean, what the hell? Why do you keep trying to delete these people's histories? I mean, they did the same thing. So people always go like, you guys, he wasn't a loyal Nazi. He was only in the Nazi party because you had to be a rocket scientist. Oh, bullshit. I don't care if you had to be or didn't have to be. It's such a bogus excuse for von Braun because we all know intelligence services and the military, when they brought in Operation Paperclip, part of the plan was to whitewash their histories. And I'll tell you why. They did not want America knowing what these people did. Walter Schreiber, for example, did these horrible like ice pick experiments on young Polish girls. Yeah, that guy was brought over and was placed in various Air Force bases and stations around America, including Texas. When the press, this is how things have changed, guys. This is why the Nazis took control of our press. This is why we have the CIA Mockingbird being where they actually put their own journalists in all these major, media houses, the CIA. Then if you know CIA's Nazi'd all the hell up too. Well, there you go, guys. I mean, they put their own journalists in there. Now America, because we've had Mockingbird journalists with Nazi backgrounds telling us what a Nazi is, to this day, we really don't know. We really have no clue that they've been here the whole time and next to us the whole time and using us the whole time like frickin' toilet paper, wiping their asses with the reputation of the United States and showing the world is what the Nazis effectively do. They thumb their noses at everybody else and they use us as their human shields. They're always using someone as their human shields. Always. They're always stealing somebody else's movements, stealing somebody else's reputations, stealing somebody else's likenesses. They're always doing it. Okay. Now, yeah, so somebody here says OSS never stopped. I mean, OSS was the precursor to the CIA. So, I mean, one thing is the other if we're talking about the same thing. But yeah, so we used to have something. I mean, most people, I think, agree that before the CIA, the group that performed that function was just the OSS. And I believe that was a function of the Navy that did like foreign intelligence, like the way the CIA does now. That function was something that was part of the OSS Naval Office, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to do more research, guys, because I wasn't prepared to talk on that one. But from memory, yeah, I believe that's accurate. Okay, so all right, so let me play this really fast because this is something people need to understand. Because guys, as long as I've been researching this, and even I'd already produced a lot of my Nazism and occultism articles before I even saw this, and I was like, whoa. So check this out. But listen carefully to what they're saying. I put the subtitles on.
They preached the doctrine of racial and class hatred. For Hitler had said America could be conquered from within and fall as an overripe plum to the Nazi master race. Jewish-Moscow-directed domination. We let them speak. When occasionally a lone outraged dissenter wanted to air his opposition, we provided police to preserve order. This was Madison Square Garden in New York City, and not Berlin nor Nuremberg. Later, the speaker was arrested. It was because he had filched money from his deluded followers, and he was sent to Sing Sing to brood upon the strange ways of democracy.
That's not the one, though. Hang on. No, that's not it either. Maybe it is, actually. No. This is it.
Many in the U.S. remain blind to the Hitler menace, even when the German-American Bund stages mass rallies in Madison Square Garden, and its stormtroopers answer hecklers with blackjack.
That's not even. Sorry about the glitch there. All right, guys. So, just in case you're wondering, like, is this fringe news even, or is it just simply that you missed it? I mean, yeah, let me put it this way. Like, Operation Paperclip is a bit fringe, but it's definitely not a conspiracy theory. It is official, you guys. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's so official and it's so known at this point that, like, nobody can really even deny. And even the major publications that normally would go like, move along now, nothing to see here. What they're now trying to do, guys, is just completely repackage Operation Paperclip as if it was a great thing for America. As if, no, you guys, no, man, don't let all these people be haters and everything like that. This is what saved us, man. Von Braun saved us, man. Goering saved us. It's like, no. The Nazis basically fanned the flames of the Cold War because they were, think about it, guys, they lost to the Russians, but in effect, they won the Americans. We just didn't know it. It wasn't announced to us. We were put under this little voodoo illusion that the Nazis lost World War II, and all they did was come over to America and set up camp here, and again, have been using us, our resources, our military, our government, all of the things that we rely upon. They've just been using us to build it up for them, okay? We're doing things for them. I wish you guys understood that. Like, if you want to know who the hidden slave master is, why do you think they always conveniently blame it on guess who? In Hollywood, it's always who's the bad landlord, who's the ones in Hollywood always doing it, who's the ones in the media always doing it, who's always being blamed? Geez, Jews and Freemasons. Exactly, guys. In America, it's always Jews and Freemasons being blamed. And guess who the Nazis hate more than anybody? Jews. And believe it or not, and I can prove this, Freemasons. Nazis hate Freemasons. Now, why? So, guys, if you ever ask, like, let me put it this way, guys. I'm not a Freemason, but I really hate Nazis. So there's that thing where you say the friend of my enemy is my friend. Okay, in my mind, the Nazis are like one of the only people that I would ever really consider to be an enemy. And so on some level, I find ways to get along with people that I think are benevolent Freemasons because they were a part of taking down the Nazi party. And I believe that to this day, there's ones that work within those groups to take them down also. But guess what the Nazis have been doing for decades? Redefining our perception of who they are. So what did they do in the 80s? I grew up thinking Nazis were these like weird, blonde-haired, blue-eyed guys that all dressed like you saw in that clip. They were trying to go for the old school thing. They wore swastikas. They were proud. They shaved their heads. They sometimes wore Doc Martens and leather things if they were skinheads and identified that way. But there was only a couple flavors of Nazis. And we've been sold that story, all of us, especially if you're my age. We were sold that our entire childhood. We were never told that you could have a black Nazi, that you could have a Nazi from India. You could have a Nazi who's Japanese, a Nazi who's Chinese, a Nazi. No, you've never been told that. To this day, it's shocking until Kanye gets on, gets on Alex Jones and just starts openly espousing hatred for the Jews and talking about how great the Nazis are and how sympathetic he is to the Nazis. Well, hey guys, eventually the mask had to come off, didn't it? Oh, wait a second. No, it didn't. He kept it on. Bizarre, isn't it? But that's Nazism. It's always there to confuse everybody. So at the end of the day, you don't even know what you just saw with that, right? You saw that whole thing with him and Fuentes and like, what? Who is what? Is this? But the Nazis are controlling the narrative on every turn. You think you're debating one side versus the other, and the Nazis are sitting backstage writing the script to both of them and telling them what to do. You think that on the floor, the Republicans are debating the Democrats, and they're all Nazi puppets. We're being governed by the Nazi party, you guys, whether you want to believe it or not. We have to, as Americans, throw these assholes out. Okay? Like, we've got to do something in America to meaningful, to partner with the rest of the world to denazify this country. Because this country has global influence. And if we don't take this issue seriously to eradicate and remove the Nazi influence, and it needs to happen. I'm not talking like chase them down and all their freaking family members, because shit, there's probably a lot of offspring of these people that have no clue that their parents or grandparents or whatever are Nazis. So that's not the solution. I don't believe that's the solution. I'm not advocating for that. I don't believe you go around openly exterminating people or whatever. But see, these people never even had their Nuremberg trials. They were never held accountable. And now we've got all these different characters that are presented to us in the media as our saviors and heroes, giving us medical advice and telling us about our space program and telling us about our media and telling us about our whatever. And I promise you guys, if they're getting your attention, for the most part, almost for the most part, guys, they have to have some connection to this. I'm only inside the narrative, you guys. I only got a seat at the table because I'm related to them. And there was still a hope back when I first got my media interviews. There was still a hope that they could steer me into the false agenda, that I would never figure out the truth and I would never promote the truth. So that's why they were okay with me being in the media and even being allowed on the Basis Project, was because guess what? I shook a family tree and found some Nazis. So the whole point is to get me muddied with them. They want me to think like them or to be promoting the same thing, or at a minimum to be go like, they're what? Nah, they're not Nazis. Nobody here is a Nazi. What, are you crazy? No, those people say Sieg Heil and do all these other crazy shit. These people have all been Democrats and liberals. What? But that's exactly one of the biggest places they hide, you guys. So no, there's different flavors. There is and this is the thing you got to understand, guys. Yes, they do have that model of the neo-fascist, the neoconservative fascist, Aryan white supremacist, but that person is still a puppet. They are. Because if they're even thinking about racial superiority, they're a puppet. Nazis way higher level. The SS, they're thinking way higher level. It's about shared beliefs. It's about shared ideologies. And so the same way that the Jews believe in the Kabbalah and have formed an entire belief, religion, ethnicity, all of it, guys, the belief system becomes the people. And they understand that. Kabbalistic knowledge actually gets this. Freemasons on some level get it. And the Nazis desperately want to have that organic thing that is just gifted to people that are closer to the Masons and gifted to people that are closer to the Jews. And I'm not saying it's because those people are, quote, chosen, you guys. I'm just suggesting to you that it's just that they study things at the level, their religion studies it at the level where they really understand the fabric of life. They understand like the very concept of the Sephiroth and the tree of life and everything like that. It's such a complex concept that is somehow gifted to the people that start to get it. So this is really the thing that's the envy of the Nazi party. They're looking for that sort of holy grail of knowledge that's never really gifted to them. They can't get it. You see, some things really are, they really do come from a higher source, whether you want to believe that or not. And it's not because there's necessarily a God that's selected and going like, you're good, you're bad, you're good. It's not like that. It's more about what you draw with the bioplasma layers of bions. You're generating bions with what you focus and concentrate on. Focus and concentrate on the right things get drawn to you. Guys, I don't even want to be talking about Nazis because, again, that pulls away my focus and concentration onto them. I don't even like to talk about them. And I'm not trying to further their agenda by having these conversations. What tonight is about is just sort of saying, like, guys, can we just sort of like have like a come to Jesus moment, as they say, a wake up call to just how significant the paperclip influence is in America? Because if USA Today, one of the most mainstream, like vanilla yogurt, publications you could possibly get, I mean, as bland and as, flavorless and as non-confrontational of journalism as ever existed as USA Today. That's why they put them in every hotel room and everything. It's like, it's not offensive news. It's like on hotels and airplanes, everything like that. USA Today was the national paper that was like, all right, it's not going to piss anyone off. It's just filled pretty much with human interest articles and only what they have to say that happened in the mainstream. So if they're talking about paperclip and going fact check, and by the way, guys, they didn't just say fact check. When I say that they did this, like, I know what you're expecting, that they're going to say at the bottom like it didn't happen, but watch. If you scroll all the way, they actually go into detail here. It says, by the fall of 1945, German scientists started arriving on U.S. soil. Not all of the men recruited were Nazis or SS officers, but the most prominent and valued among them were having worked either directly with Hitler or leading members of the Nazi party, such as Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring. Werner von Braun, a rocket engineer, was instrumental in developing the first U.S. ballistic missile, the Redstone, and later the Saturn V rocket, while serving as a director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. So, guys, he wasn't just anybody. He was the director of NASA. Director. He headed. A Nazi was put in charge of everybody. I mean, and it's not the only time. It just kept happening over and over again. And guys, what do you suppose a Nazi does when they're put into a leadership position? Do you think they let anybody but other Nazis underneath them? So ever since the space program has began, you've had Nazis promoting Nazis, promoting Nazis, promoting Nazis, promoting Nazis, promoting Nazis, then partnering with all these different labs and media organizations to go like, we're not Nazis. No, we never were. Erasing their history, swapping them with other people's identities. And if anything ever does get discovered and they actually do have to say who they really are, they can kind of go like, yeah, but we weren't really Nazis, guys. No. We surrendered willfully. We wanted to come over there. And it's like, no, you didn't. You would have Nazi'd this whole fucking world up if you had been left over in Germany. You would have been proudly launching missiles all over the place and destroying the world. Don't act like you gave up willfully. Except they kind of did. Because, again, if you look at that rally, those weren't Germans that came over to America just to be at Madison Square Garden. I mean, some were. No, most of those, tens of thousands of whatever seats that they filled up that day were Americans that liked the Nazi agenda. Something you got to think about. Okay. Yeah. So again, somebody says the Freemasons lost their original purity. Okay. So look, guys. So again, I'm explaining to folks. I understand that. But you can't say the Freemasons any more than you can say the Jews. It's a bigoted thing. If you think about it, it has bigoted origins, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you are for whatever. What I'm suggesting to you is that within America, okay, I'll put the slides up if you want me to demonstrate all this. Hitler actually did hate the Freemasons, and if you look up on Wikipedia, even guys, even on a site that's known for having like, you know, exaggerated or lesser numbers or whatever, I can't imagine a Wikipedia would like exaggerate the number of Freemasons that were executed. But Hitler did in fact send Freemasons to concentration camps and exterminate them. So if you're telling me that they've lost their purity, I'm telling you that it's because Hitler went off and exterminated a shit ton of them, stole their documents, and then took over their lodges with Nazis. So yeah, you're right. Quite a bit of Freemasonry has in fact lost its original purity because, like what Nazis always do, they kill the original people, replace that person with one of theirs, change the documents to something that more fits their agenda, hides the real ones for themselves, uses all that esoteric and ancient knowledge against us, rinse, repeat. Because they've been doing it in America. That's why we don't even have a basic understanding of energetics. Our kids don't even understand basic human energy by the time that they get out of college. Holy shit. Wow. I mean, does anybody here get that anywhere inside any of it? Did anybody get an energetics education? I just did a whole presentation on this a couple nights ago. He wrote a book about someone named Elon. Yeah. That's what my presentation was like a few nights ago. That's why I was explaining to people, like, all right, so remember what I said from a few nights ago. Werner von Braun wrote that Mars technical book, right, about traveling to Mars and what Mars would be like. And within that book, he said that we would be led by the Elon. And that the technical innovations would be revealed from the Martians to the people on Earth through something called the Elon. And so, yeah, that was something Werner von Braun wrote. So what I'm suggesting to people then, and even now tonight, is that's not for no reason. It's because the Nazis are always planning ahead, and they have always things that, you know, going on. And, you know, they think of things like they have an architecture for what they're doing. And so it takes like a decade to build up a guy named Elon into who he is. You have to make people believe in him. You have to create him out of thin air. Nobody knew who the hell Elon was until the Nazi controlled media put him out there for our consumption and said, this guy is this person. You have no choice but to accept it as reality. You didn't know him since childhood. You didn't witness his birth. So you have no clue that he could be a crisis actor. And they do this a lot. The Nazis have been controlling corporate America through crisis actors and buffers, just like the mafia does. It's exactly like The Godfather. Okay. The Godfather ain't the one who like shows up to board meetings at corporations, but he controls it. The Godfather ain't the one that goes to the legislation meetings and makes something work in his favor, you know, when they go to vote. But somebody's out there doing it for him. Why? Because the Godfather always makes sure to do favors for all the right people at all the right times. So they always owe the Godfather. And the Godfather will even set up some of those people to get into trouble so that they have to owe the Godfather something. And I'm just saying, guys, it all works the same way with the Nazis. It all is the same shit. And so what I suggest to folks is that Elon, as much as you might think of him as your new conservative hero, is nothing of the sort. Before all this shit happened, guys, you would all be jumping down him for doing all of his weird occult sex shit. And I mean, guys, he's weird as hell. I mean, it's fine, guys. I like eccentric people too, but Elon's got a lot of weird shit going on. That again, now you're all happy because you're winning. This is what pisses me off about the simplicity of Americans. And I hope it's mostly being engineered by bots and mockingbird journalists, what I'm seeing on Twitter. But it's like, you have to respect your opposition's right to speak on some level. not disinformation, because that's what people do in my chat board oftentimes. They'll pretend that they're promoting certain people or talking about certain things, but they're speaking code, or they're inserting characters that are there to, using the Nazi methods. They're literally doing mirroring tactics to replace my material or other people's materials with fake fucking characters that they're inserting into my chats. So now I just let them do it so people can watch it happen and they can identify the frauds for themselves. I don't even like pay attention to it anymore. I just used to like delete them. But now I just let it go because now people can see through it. They know when somebody's just selling hookers or whatever else like that, trying to use my chat to troll me. And they love doing that shit. Like, I'm serious, guys. Like, there's times where I'll show up to do an article someplace, and then the CTH TCP cults just show up and start yelling shit at me from a distance and actually doing things near me to dope IP addresses or do something that is an obvious swapping of a person or something like that near me. And they're looking at me the whole time like, we get away with it. I'm like, they've told me to my face at times, guys. They've like straight up rode right up on me and told me what they were doing and said it to my face. They can be that bold about it now. And that's all I'm saying to people now. It's like we're at a point now in America, folks, where you're letting this all shit happen. And if we don't do something meaningful now to end these people, to stop their influence, to end their media influence, like this has to be something that we have to make a decision in America to do, because more Americans have figured it out than they're engineering this consent to keep doing what they're doing. Okay. They're doing it with bot personalities. I don't care. Elon can act like he's fighting bots. Elon talks to bots. Elon's entire reputation was built on bots. AI bots building him up and going, you're great. Hey, everybody, isn't he awesome? Yeah, I think he's awesome too. Yes, bot number one. How about you, bot number 1,465,000 million? Yes, I like him too. I think his AI inventions are really going to benefit society. Neuralink isn't that bad. I mean, over and over again, bot, 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 bot. And if you're not a bot that's just generated using fake AI, then you're a bot journalist that's there to present it from different shades of like, I'm a little bit concerned about Elon, but I basically think he's a good guy that has our better interests at heart. And you know something? Sometimes you just have to accept some of the bad with the good. I know all the bullshit, guys. They're warming you into it, but you know what? Fine. I just have to let people know, man. It's just like the Trump thing. Like, I'm willing to let people like have their delusions or whatever, but I have to also tell you something that like nearly every alternative like we have in America, it's the same setup, you guys. Like, a lot of people thought like Cenk Uygur and the Young Turks was going to be this great alternative voice for them, right? But he disappointed the shit out of them. They start off all right, some things are good for progressives and liberals, and it kind of works for them. He says all the right things, and then they all go off into fucking woo, like way off into crazy land and saying all kinds of fucked up shit and doing things that are way contradicting, like the opinions of the people that they allege to support, and making them look foolish and creating more division politics and more duality politics. And again, they love it. But what winds up happening to all of you who actually have an alternative perspective? Well, what did TYT do to you every time? Like, if you're guys here, we don't have as many. I don't think we draw as many of the left and and that's fine. I mean, I don't mind either way. You're welcome. Everybody is. I want everybody to be here because I come from that same perspective. And again, I was all about Bernie even in 2016. But I caught on to what was going on. I started figuring out what the game is. These are the people. They give us selected alternatives. Bernie's one of them, guys. And if you still think that guy's pure, you're fooling yourselves. No, no, no. They're all doing this shit if they've even been given to you as an option that was even viable. Otherwise, because I mean, the people that are really there to do something, they never let them in. And what has he done to you every time? He gets all your support. People basically will he could have won a couple elections. He could have even beat Trump in one of them. But no, he starts going, oh, well, I know this was all stolen and this is all bullshit, but I got to give it to Hillary. And, I just really would appreciate it if you'd support her. And then what happened, you guys, the next time? Oh, I really support. Please put all your support behind Joe Biden. He's my guy, and I support him all the way. Oh, my God, you guys, you just buy the bullshit every time. Well, guess what, conservatives? You're on your way. Elon is your Bernie Sanders. He is. He's going to be the set you up, knock you down, because you've given up on Trump, see? And they figured this out, you guys. Every time you start to give up on one, that's why Trump today released those cards, the NFTs. You haven't figured that out? He's letting you down on purpose. So now you can love DeSantis. Now you can love Elon. Handoff achieved. And everybody brought to you by NBC. Why? Because Trump even, sorry, Trump. I mean, look, dude, prove me wrong, man. Do something good. I mean, look, I to me, take the challenge. I'm not saying the guy is horrible. I'm saying, like, do something good. Do something good. Don't sell NFTs because that's a bunch of shit. Half the people guys, that's bizarre to me. Like they're going after like half the place. Like if my channel had ever accepted any sort of like promotion of NFTs or any promotions of these like cryptocurrencies, and I was so poor a few times, I thought about it. I actually thought about doing some of those things that I got, offers to do. But no, ultimately I said no, and I'm glad because the ramifications when it's all said and done is you probably get very little reward for putting the material on your channel, and they wind up coming back to you saying that you falsely promoted some currency that winds up tanking and people lose their money, like what just happened with that one dude. So again, if you guys had any idea how many times I probably received like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 50 offers like that. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. Some of them might be spam or, like fake things. And probably about at least like 20-30% of them are. But the rest of them appear to be like legitimate offers where they want you to contact them and say, hey, give you like current cryptocurrency in return for putting a commercial on your channel. Well, people that did that, there's like this huge lawsuit for one of these ones where they're all being like brought in from some SEC thing. So it's not worth it. And again, a lot of these things are designed to get people into these belief systems and where they're like, hoping for the next best thing. Like, think about it, guys. I warned everybody. I said, you guys are buying the hype with this Elon thing on Dogecoin. This is before he even became a conservative hero. The Dogecoin thing was how he was getting all the tech community and all the geeks that were a little bit more liberal. See, like you guys probably don't even remember that shit. The ones that are loving him now. But then he gets on Saturday Night Live and they started like, again, he starts even priming the pump and getting everybody thinking Dogecoin, Dogecoin, Dogecoin. Well, guess what happened? It tanked. He goes on Saturday Night Live and all these people went and bought Dogecoin. Nope. Suddenly, as soon as he makes his appearance, it goes, well, again, it does it all the time. It goes up, down, up, down. But the point was everybody's thinking that his celebrity, his star power is going to make this worthless cryptocurrency skyrocket. I'll admit it's a fun coin and everything like that. But I mean, it's pretty much worthless. I don't think it's even worth a dime a piece, in US dollars. And then by the time you pay all your fees and everything like that to exchange it, it probably is worth less than that. It's probably worth barely a nickel a share, or not a share, but a coin or whatever, a token. I don't know what they call them. A coin. So, yeah. Guys, stop. Like, look, let's stop. Like, I'm so sick of this. Like, going, he doesn't know how much he's being used, dude. Come on, man. Like, you got to have more sophistication than that. Don't say like Elon's being used. Bullshit. Sorry. I mean, look, I'm saying that out of respect for you. Bullshit. No. He knows what he's doing. He's a willing participant. Look, you want me to show you some shit here, guys? Take a look at his mom and everything else like that. Let's go into, because this is relevant to the Nazi thing. Let me show you something, man. These people are all about extending, the Nazi influence globally, and the whole Zelensky thing. Here's old Elon's mom. This is her Facebook profile where she brags openly, about. She goes, I also discussed how proud I am of my children and their support. Elon delivered SpaceX Starlink internet dishes. Hashtag stand with Ukraine. Kimball Musk posted their national flower, sunflowers for Ukraine. So this is her just basically doing an entire post that just details all of the Musk family's dedication and support for Ukraine and Zelensky's bullshit. And guys, look, think whatever you want to about that conflict. I'm not a fan of war. I don't like that people are getting killed and everything. No, not at all. But you have to understand too, guys, like that conflict is so much more complicated than this fake ass media that we have is even reporting. And there was acts of aggression. The Ukrainians were actually attacking people that had more Russian loyalties and wanted to speak the Russian language. The Nazis were attacking them on those border towns, the same areas where they lost World War II. Starting to make sense, guys? And so at some point, when you have this territorial border thing and there's citizens that live on the Ukraine side that are being mistreated by Nazis on the Ukraine side, and then you got this guy that goes like, well, I'm Jewish. I would never let that happen. Are you starting to see what Nazis do? He's killing his own country. Everybody's suffering as a result of this guy who goes, you can't criticize me. I would never do Nazi things. I'm Jewish. See, how do you quantify that? That's all I'm saying. See, that's a worthy discussion, because a lot of people here falsely identify certain people within Judaism who are really just Nazis hiding within Judaism. Nazis hide within Freemasonry. Nazis hide within our government. They take things over and make it their own and change everyone else's perception of it. That's why I say America is good. Our military is good. The American people are good. What's bad in our country is our inability to notice, witness, and recognize Nazism when it's right fucking in front of us. And we need to get better about that. Because being this pro that conflict is really truly a pro-Nazi agenda. I don't care what Zelensky says. This is bizarre what this man does, getting everybody to believe that criticizing their arm, like they're filled with Nazis that openly do Nazi occult rituals and throw up Nazi symbols everywhere. Then he goes, so is he really what he says? Or would that just not be the best cover to get away with advancing the Nazi agenda and starting a proxy war with the American Nazis through Ukraine? Which is really, guys, it's way bigger than Ukraine. What they're really doing here is they're arming the world through the Ukraine. It is a laundering pad. Weapons, resources taken from America, us, the shit that we've been working on doing, and giving it to all their global Nazi partners through the Ukraine, where they can launder it because there's a conflict and chaos there. And when it all goes missing, people will go, well, that's war. No, they're transferring billions of our wealth to the Nazis that are global. Recognize that. And that's why they go, Zelensky's Jewish, you can't criticize him. Get it? They do that in a lot of different places. Nazis hide using that exact same excuse. I'm not saying Zelensky is one. What I'm saying is he's way too comfortable with the ones who are for me to accept that he's a standard Jewish person that would actually advocate on behalf of most people, let alone his own Jewish people. In earnest. By the way, guys, George Soros is also Jewish, and George Soros used to raid other Jewish homes with his uncle in the Nazi party as a child. And there's an interview where he admits this. And when he was asked by the 60 Minutes journalist, didn't this cause you any stress? Don't you have any negative associations with this now? He goes, not at all. If it weren't us, it would have been somebody else. I'm paraphrasing, but that's effectively what he said. And he did it. I mean, that was his response. I can't put the clip up here, guys. It'll cancel my channel. But his expression was, not at all. If it weren't us, it would have been somebody else. And he's like trying to warm the reporter up to this idea. So, guys, like when people say I'm Jewish, I wouldn't, you can't really always go with that logic, because there's lots of people that are like George Soros. There's lots of people that have that emotional disconnect and go like, yeah, but because see, even within that group, even within the Jewish faith, there are many splits. I was learning this the other day, guys, because I've been wanting to have a whole episode. Again, I don't have the kind of audience where I could get the kind of people, like I don't know this many Jewish people to do this, but I wanted there to be like um a uh a greater discussion about the like Jews that are more that practice things involving like what the Torah is and the Talmud is, and I wanted to have a greater discussion about what the synagogues represent, what it's the differences between like Orthodox, Hasidic, and then modern people and reformers. I'm even willing to delve into some of these more alternative topics involving, because I've had some people approach me on this. There's other people that believe the true Israelites were black. And so I'm even willing to enter that into the debate or the discussion, guys. I mean, seriously, like I want to really understand it from all different angles to the best of my ability. I wanted to sort of focus on traditional Judaism and have different people, explain it to me from that angle, like just so we can like understand, like people who are non-Jewish can understand it better. See, I'm looking for that kind of greater awareness, understanding, so that a person can't just pretend to be Jewish and then do not Nazi things that actually harm Jewish people and the global population. That'd be a little bit like, what if I went down? What if actually, this did happen, actually. I mean, there's a bunch of people that are in Mexico doing this. They blend in as Mexicans and Mexican nationals when they're actually Nazis. And they've taken over a good chunk of Mexican politics. I started researching this, but my understanding of Spanish language isn't good enough for me to like tackle that deeply. But I did. I dug even into Mexican politics and learned that they've got the same problem going on with Nazification. The Nazis have done this globally. They did not just do their paperclip here, you guys. They have placed themselves globally. Just like Boys from Brazil. It's trippy how much Boys from Brazil is accurate, even though it's a fictional account of the Nazi Party. It is bizarre how much they actually did something like this. They genetically spread themselves globally and placed themselves in key positions. And now they've completely redefined, using their own control of the media, who they blame on who? The Jews. Isn't it bizarre, guys? When it's the media, it's always the Jews did it and the Freemasons did it. And here's what I would argue, guys. It doesn't mean that you won't find people that identify as Jewish or Freemason that have done those things. I would ask that you go a little bit deeper now into your level of sophistication and go, all right, now, are those real ones or are they mask wearers? Because again, to give Mike a little credit for what he mentioned earlier, he said that they're not their original ways. I agree, guys, because nothing is as it originally was. So why don't we give Freemasonry the same credit? That's the only point that I make. And I am not a Freemason. And if I sound like an apologist, it's mostly because I can recognize that they're a scapegoat. That's all. I can see clearly that as an organization, they became like the Jewish people, a real easy scapegoat. And then I started digging deep into the etymology of who's into doing that. It always led me back to the Nazi Party. So I had to ask myself, why here within the conspiracy communities do I always have people that aggressively get in my face and go, yeah, Gabe, but you really don't understand it the way that I do. It's the Jews and the Freemasons doing it. And I kind of go, since when though? About when did that perception begin? When do you first start hearing those reports? When do you first start seeing these things attributed? I would argue that you're really going to see that Nazis have a large part of the etymology behind the lore of pointing the finger at the Jews and the Freemasons, while they themselves were wearing the masks of Jews and Freemasons, who they were actively exterminating and continue to actively exterminate. And by the way, this is how they feel about anybody with esoteric wisdom or energetics or anything like that. They want to exterminate you. You are a threat to what they're doing. I personally know that they perceive me as a threat to their agenda, just by talking about human energy concepts the way that I do, because they exploit them for negative things. They exploit human energy. Psychotronic generators have been deployed in America. Most people don't know. A lot of people in America are the victims of sophisticated scalar weapons and electromagnetic harassment and warfare methods, using Nazi technology, disguised in Department of Energy labs and distributed in organizations that other agencies don't even know about. Like you think that you would think that it's the government And it's even deeper than that, guys. I mean, they always scapegoat different groups that are easy to do, but they're telling you to blame the government. They're telling you to blame whatever, but it's the tail wagging the dog. And that tail is like, dude, it's like a little nub. It is like it's like a curly little pug's tail or one of those little nubs on, I don't know what those dogs are. You know, like a dog that barely has like a stump. That's the tail that's wagging the dog, dude. And this dog that is America is a Great Dane, and it's being wagged by this little tiny stump of a Chihuahua antenna. Not antenna. Well, it functions like one. No, sorry, tail. Antenna. Where did I get antenna? I'm talking about antenna concepts. But yeah, we're being wagged by a little Nazi tail, and they like to tell tales. So that's the only reason why I wanted to show this, guys, okay? Because even though she's making herself look like the mom of the year there, this lady's got some issues, oh Maya Musk. Hang on really quick. I'm trying to find the other thing with Maya. There it is. This is from I want to make Silview Media, and they actually have a Twitter channel. I don't know what their angle is or what their politics are, so but they have some really good memes that they put out, you know, that are like animated memes. They kind of discuss all this. So that's Elon's mom doing the color coding, one eye posing thing. This is what pisses me off, guys. You want to talk about the masterfulness of the Nazis, okay? Sean King. Again, he'll co-opt a position that's very similar to mine. He'll say things that are very similar. But see, I have nothing in common with an asshat like Sean King. My politics have nothing in common. But see, what he does is he tries to make his position on the surface look very similar to my position on the surface so that when you see it immediately, you start channeling this asshole instead of like what my intention is. And I don't think he's a white nationalist into apartheid. I think it's way deeper than that. But see, he's like going like, it's more than Republican or Democrat. It's about he's a white nationalist and you need to like resist this. So all these people are going to immediately go, oh, bullshit. I like this. You mean Sean King doesn't like him? Now I really like Elon Musk. You guys, that's part of this is like Lucha Libre. These guys are on the same team. Figure it out. Sean King ain't even black. Unreal, dude. But see, that's the thing. Even me saying that, they're going to go like, yes, but people can identify as different races now. Oh, they can? Wait a second. There was a whole nother one where she was like on this magazine that's like a cult. Where is it? Hang on, guys. Let me find it. I think they pulled it offline. I still have it though. I have an image of this thing. Hang on. This is what blew me away. She's on this magazine called The Cult. It's bizarre, guys. I just had this thing on my drive, and it's like suddenly I can't. Hang on. Desktop. All right. I'll find it. Hang on. I'm almost there. There it is. I got it. I'm just going to do an image share here real quick. Stop that. You guys got to see this. So that's Elon's mom. Oh, suddenly I'm having problems, huh? Okay. That's Elon's mom. So again, guys, I mean, that's all right. I mean, I get it. I mean, look, I like art. I can appreciate that people have different styles and things like that or whatever, but that all seems kind of witchy. And I'm not just saying that. I'm saying, like, look at what the magazine says. Fashion Witch of Salem, The Illusionist, Descendant Interview, Rose McGowan, Modern Day Witch, Art Mustafa Sabag, Beauty 5 Oils You Need in Your Life. There's only one sentence in there that doesn't have something that involves witchcraft. That's all right though, guys. I mean, just keep looking the other way though at the obvious, because that's the mom. See, so what I'm telling you is that if you start finding the same type of like weird occulted shit with Elon, maybe pay attention. And I got real suspect at the whole thing when, God, dude, things are so full of shit. I don't even know why I'm talking about all this. I should just get into the material. I'm tired of like focusing on this one person and everything like that when it's so much deeper, because it's just like it puts people off. But I'm gonna play the next material so you kind of have a better understanding of like what's the etymology of how we got Nazism in America and why I know things. Okay. So that's where I'm just gonna start going into, guys. I don't want to like focus. It's just to help you understand, guys. Like I know how they operate. Okay. My mother is like all witched up. She can act like she ain't, but she is. She's all witchy as hell. So I know witchcraft. I know what psychoenergetic manipulation is at an industrial scale. I know what it looks like when somebody uses it on you right in front of you. I know the gaslighting techniques of witchcraft. I know what psychoenergetic manipulation is. I have experienced it from the architects who do it to you. They do it to me too. In fact, I would almost argue that I was like a guinea pig for the shit they do to you guys. Can we make Gabe believe it? He's pretty sharp when it comes to detecting these things. If we can make him believe it, we can probably trick this much of the population. So I'm just like, I'm trying to get like way, way more sophisticated, way more intelligent. I try to accept new information. I try to listen to people from different perspectives, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have arrived at the perspective I'm at today. I still would have been pushing them away, going, that doesn't happen. Especially the Nazi narrative, guys. They are so good at brainwashing Americans that as close as I've been to Nazism, it's like they were the best at doing it to me. I was like, get the fuck out of here. There's not this much Nazism. Mexican Nazis, black Nazis, what? Asian Nazis, what? Acting like it couldn't happen when it's all very logical. If you think about it, it's completely logical. It's always been this way. For a very, not always, but as long as they've been around, it's been this way. If you don't think there's Mexican Nazis, then ask yourself, why is it that after Fanta, a cola that was an orange soda that was made for Nazi Germany so the Coca-Cola company could get around all those laws and sell to them, they created Fanta. And so then after World War II disbanded and all the Nazi things, whatever, Fanta became a product of South America and Mexico. It became a favorite drink of that culture. See, they go after everything, guys. That's why I'm telling you, like, you can't even think about black versus white, Mexicans versus these people, or black people versus Asians, or whatever these little dynamics that they keep trying to manufacture over and over again, trying to make us all believe that we're one group versus another. We really have to like drop duality world completely and stop playing the chessboard. We have to stop accepting it. The red, blue, Coke versus Pepsi. Like there's so many, we're giving away everything to these people. So I want to show you some of the things that were close in my life. I actually, guys, I went out and researched. When I have the resources, I go out and research. I report from the field. I make my life the environment that I'm in. I've been doing this for years. It's good quality work when I'm capable and able to do it and fund it and put it out there. And I'm going to show you some of the better things that I've done here to actually show people. Like I actually went out to this American, guys, in America, we operated a prisoner of war camp with Nazi prisoners of war. Do you know this? And if you do know it, Did you know it before watching my channel? Because if you didn't, that's strange to me that not only did I not know it, but it seems to me as a whole country, we have had this history completely obscured. So we need to ask ourselves who's in charge. Because who's in charge always deletes Nazi history. Shouldn't we be having our little Sherlock Holmes moment right now and going, I think it's okay to fire a bunch of these motherfuckers right now and just completely shut down a whole bunch of departments and completely decommission a whole bunch of wasteful agencies. It's actually justified at this point because you can finally go, whew, they really aren't doing anything but causing more problems and charging us for it. That's not even taking a conservative position or like a non-government waste position. No, this is saving our country. This is saving the world. You got to shut that shit down. And in the areas where they're doing surveillance and internet, I mean, again, guys, we have agencies that are in charge of, like, the CIA obviously needs to have a complete overhaul. I know people say defund, but I mean, let's get real. It's not that easy. Defund then what? Okay, I get it. Probably 90% of what they're doing is causing us more harm than good. But that 10% that they're actually managing, that they're doing whatever, like, you really do have to worry about that. You can't just say. Same for the FBI. Even if you think that most of what they're working on is garbage, you still have to go like, well, from the outside looking in, how do you actually transition from pulling the bad characters out of these law enforcement agencies at a federal level and replacing them with the right people? Can you really do that easily? It seems to me like that would take damn near a multi-year military operation, especially if it involved telecommunications and replacing critical infrastructure there, kind of like the Ring Road project did. Oh my God, it almost seems like I'm kind of close to these things, doesn't it? You're fired, Nazis. That's what, if Trump was really doing his job, he would have been saying, like, Nazis, you're fucking fired. The real ones, not the fake ones, not the ones that everybody thinks are Nazis. No, we're firing the real ones. And I promise you guys, they are hiding in places you would never expect them to be, pretending to be people you would never expect them to be. Well, there you go. Yeah, somebody says here Steven Spielberg put it in everyone's mind what a Nazi looks like. Exactly. And again, it's not Spielberg. I mean, he did that part. Yeah, sure, he did with Schindler's List, but it goes deeper than that. I mean, it started way, way before him. And I'm not really a fan of Spielberg. Oh, but so yeah, I'm gonna start playing these stories. Sorry to keep babbling on. I'm gonna play this a few articles here so you can kind of see some of the history in America about how we got Nazis over here. This is I did these articles beginning in well, it started about 4 years ago, I think, that I went out to Northern California and Southern Oregon, and I actually went out to headstones and visited the grave sites of my relatives on my mother's side that were close to the Nazi segregation facility called Tule Lake Segregation Camp. And so what you're going to see is like a couple articles where I actually, I won't show the whole cemetery one. I'll only probably show a minute or two of that, but I'll actually give you a little bit of that so you can see that I actually went there. That's in Merrill, Oregon. And so I'm saying is there's a bunch of hidden Nazi bloodlines, and this is one of the areas they kind of laundered their bloodlines through, because that's what they had to do, guys. They knew that there would be a global hunt for the Nazis, right? There still is. There's still people out there that want to see these people dead, all of them, everybody connected to them. And they're probably coming for their children too, and their grandchildren. Because that's, I mean, again, guys, they left a lot of bad blood. And so there's people that are going to want to kill them at that level. And I would just appeal to anybody. I would say to you, like, no matter who's out there, even if I thought they were the most rigid Nazi, I wouldn't immediately want to kill their kid, no matter how negatively I thought. One person's actions are their own individual actions. And what I've learned over time is the next one, like the next fruit that falls from the tree of the adult could be just as radically different as they can be radically the same as their parents. I know that personally. Not everybody goes that route. And so you can't take that kind of rigid perspective. So I'm going to do my material here. Hang on really quick. So this is the playlist. And if you ever wanted to look it up, or I can leave a link inside the chat here, I'll just do a quick share. And I'll put it inside the chat section while I play the articles. But I'm going to start off with this one called Operation Paperclip, Tracking Nazi Bloodlines, Tule Lake POW Camp on Location. And again, this is where my mother's side of the family was actually living when this all happened. And so that's why I was way more curious about what all this led to than the average person might be. And it's very experiential, you guys. Like, this was when I kind of did the whole shaking my family tree and started finding Nazis thing. And so I wanted to know, from my own perspective, like, how did they hide out right in front of me? Why didn't I know these things? And then again, the more I learned about it, I was like, wow, all of America is kind of clueless about this. Then it kind of became almost like, you could say that I'm almost like an evangelical of teaching people about the roots of what happened in America relative to Nazism, because most people like myself, they had a completely jaded perspective of it. And I want to thank some of the people, actually, I'm not going to say their names, but there's quite a number of people who had to deal with my inability to accept this information when they first presented it to me. And I doubted them a lot. And I pushed them away because I couldn't accept it. And so for those folks, I just want you to know I am sorry for taking that perspective and everything. But again, I hope you understand that it's because you were creating a split of sorts. You were creating like this thing that was like, I had a different way of looking at the world. I didn't understand these things, and you were challenging it. And like a whole bunch of things that were happening to me when all this was first going on is all of my lifelong beliefs and my ideas about who people were and what my own ideologies were being confronted with reality in real tangible ways that I had to confront if I was going to be honest with myself and everyone around me. And it led me to some pretty serious conclusions about who's who and what's what. And so that's kind of what this is about. So getting to it.
Everybody picking up on the research. So I started at the International Order of Oddfellows Cemetery back near Tule Lake and Hatfield areas. That's brought me through Tule Lake into the Tule Lake Segregation Center. This is where those prisoners of war from Germany were brought. So sorry about all the construction noise, but I'll just read this here. World War II valor in the Pacific National Monument was established in 2008 in part to serve as a reminder of the grave injustices endured by Japanese Americans incarcerated at the Tule Lake Segregation Center. The Tule Lake unit also preserves a portion of the tumultuous history of the United States from the 1930s to the end of the war through the stories of civilian conservation corps, enrollees, Japanese Americans, and prisoners of war who were part of the history at Camp Tule Lake. The Tule Lake unit is a reminder to all Americans that the Constitution is no more than a piece of paper. The Tule Lake Segregation Center began in 1942 as one of the 10 war relocation centers. Initially, it held 1,276 of the approximately 120,000 women. So you can see. And then down there, not more importantly, excuse me, but as far as the research goes here, the 800 POWs. So it says, in 1944, after local farmers petitioned the U.S. government for additional farm labor, 150 Italian prisoners of war converted into the buildings into a POW camp. Soon, 800 German POWs arrived at the camp and worked in the Tule Lake Basin, helping local farmers tend and harvest their fields. So as far as the research that I'm doing, I've actually traced some of these family lines and, back as far as where they've gone and what they've done since in some cases. And it's getting more and more interesting. So we're here in Newell, not far outside of Tule Lake. Hey everybody, I'm here in Klamath Falls reporting from the International Order of Oddfellows Cemetery. I'm visiting some plots.
Hey guys, can you let me know if that you can hear that, or if it's causing you any audio issues, or if it like just a verification, because I've been having sometimes when I play these clips, people can't hear it. So if it's too loud or too low, just let me know and I'll adjust it either way. Thanks.
of people that were close to the story that I've been working on. I needed to be able to tell the story from the beginning, and it involves a lot of the international.
Crap. Sorry, guys.
Everybody picking up on the research. So I started at the International Order of Oddfellows Cemetery back near Tule Lake,
Just had a
in
little
Hatfield
glitch
areas.
it skipped to the next
That's
bit.
brought me through Tule Lake into the Tule Lake segregation.
Sorry about that.
Everybody, I'm here in Clement that I've been working on.
Just a quick background on this one, guys, because it's probably I didn't explain it enough inside the clip. So what I just showed you there and that other one was the Tule Lake segregation facility in Newell, California. And if you just go about, I don't know, several miles to the north, I can't remember exactly how many. It's not that far away. You just go across the Oregon border, which is, Tule Lake's right on the Oregon-California border. You go right over the Oregon border and you're in a town called Merrill. And so that's where this is. And this is called the Independent Order of Oddfellows Cemetery. It is literally labeled IOOF Cemetery. It is a cemetery that was built for the Oddfellows and the Rebecca Assembly. They're an occult society in America that, is like a little bit of a mystic society. They were a social fraternity. And one of the things that they were known for was taking odd jobs. Those Oddfellows did odd jobs. They did odd tasks that other people would normally never do. So they had an interest in the funeral industry. They had an interest in, doing things involving like the sick and the dead, jobs that a lot of people would find difficult to do. Oddfellows and Rebeccas are willing to do. So then as things got more modern, again, electricity is something that's more dangerous. A lot of Oddfellows would get involved with electricity, being electricians, because those are jobs that not everybody was willing to do. A lot of people are scared of electricity. Plumbing's a dirty job, putting all your hands in all the grum and grime and everything like that. So again, Oddfellows do odd jobs, things that are dirty, things that other people don't want to do. Sewage jobs, sanitation jobs, janitor jobs. I mean, anything that the average person would consider odd or an undesirable task, this group has learned to find value in those things and exploit that value. And if you really, really, really get it, and hey, guys, if anybody who's watching could actually give me a thumbs up to let me know when this video plays, if they can hear it, I'd appreciate it. But I'm going to play this again, though. But that I'm not playing the entire thing on the cemetery, but just to give you an idea of my personal family history. So what I try to explain to you guys is so there's the Nazi history connected to them. That's also connected to the child abuser in my family named James Pettigrew. And this is where he's his wife that helped him abuse children is buried. And so that's one of the reasons why I was out there. I was actually trying to physically verify with my own two eyes, is in fact his wife. Does she at least have a registered marker out there showing that she's dead? Because I had no knowledge or ability to show whether or not she was. Okay. Yeah, Snake says he's an odd fellow by default. No, I mean, I know what you're saying, because I'm not unlike you. I've done some jobs that most people would never do. Like, to be honest with you, really, being a cellular technician or a tower climber, those are classic Oddfellow jobs. Those would be things Oddfellows would do. So again, I'm coming from a family that had Oddfellows. Of course, whether I agree to be one or not, their kids are going to wind up doing jobs that Oddfellows would do, right? So again, my brother, same thing. He winds up in the nuclear industry. It's almost like they wanted to cover both sides of the radiation spectrum. They had my brother doing the more damaging, directly ionizing radiation with the nuclear industry being his specialty. And then me, it's so strange, you guys. Like, I did not plan to be a wireless engineer ever. It wasn't in the cards. It wasn't something that I ever wanted to do. And I only did it because it made money and somebody offered it to me. And it was pretty much gifted to me. I worked hard, don't get me wrong. but people were offering me things. They were affording me opportunities. They were pushing them my way. You know, I wasn't sitting there going like, hey, I can't wait to be a cell design engineer. Boy, I can't wait to run around fixing cell towers. To be honest with you, even though I enjoyed parts of the work, you know, I was lost like half the time I was doing it. I just I didn't really care that much about learning, you know, a lot of it. So when I was a technician, I was mostly like the method of procedure technician guy. I knew how to do procedures, but I didn't always know why I was actually testing something. I didn't know why I was plugging this into that. You know, none of it was bad things, guys. It was just verifying whether or not equipment worked. I'm just telling you that, like as a technician, for a very long time in my job, I just didn't even understand basic theory. I was just the guy that was just like looking at some directions. I was good. I was intelligent, but no, I didn't go to college to become one. So I just learned how to follow directions really well and learned over time how to actually be a quote engineer and understand it at an engineering level. But as I had to work my way into that knowledge. I didn't begin there. I didn't get trained first. It was all training by doing. So yeah, to that point, and even now, it's like I've left the wireless industry, but what did I wind up doing is one of the first things that I did as an official job since, because I left a long time ago, but I've basically been doing this for years. And so I knew I needed to get back to work and earn some, you know, money and everything like that, just to recover from some of the lack of income from having a channel. And so that's why I did seafood processing, because again, it's quick. You know, you can get in easily. You can make some money. It's all you know, easy in, easy out. You know, but yeah, challenging work. It's smelly. It's cold. It's uncomfortable, and it's something that most people would never do. In fact, I would argue seafood processing and meat processing facilities are probably the odd fellow jobs that you would probably be involved in. So again, guys, I am not an odd fellow, but I was heavily immersed in their environments on multiple occasions. There's no question. And having a mother that admitted to me right to my face that she was a Rebecca, that's also a thing. And what I'm telling you guys is this is where Rebeccas and Oddfellows are buried. They choose to be buried here. Chances are, if my mother dies, this is where she's going to ask to be buried, next to her kin. And they're up there at the top of the hill, as you're going to see at that Oddfellow cemetery. So this is me proving my case, guys. I don't just do things and say things. I actually show you why I know so much about what Nazism really is. I show you the whole step-by-step thing about what I went through.
I needed to be able to tell this story from the beginning. So, and it involves a lot of the International Order of Oddfellows and Rebeccas. Not all, but some. And their impact on our culture and how that started and where it leads back to and who it leads back to. Who are the players?
Okay, guys. This trips me out. That's a family headstone. And I'm not going to suggest that the name like William with the middle initial H is uncommon, but I've always wondered why the actor William H. Macy didn't just call himself William Macy. Was there other popular William Macys in history that would make him put the H in the middle to define it as William H. Macy? Until I saw that William H. Macy looked a lot like a guy named Dan Daria. Not just a little bit. He looked like he was pretty much the same guy. And Dan Daria was allegedly dead. Look up Dan Daria. And after this article, I might show you a slide to show you what I saw, to where you might go like, whoa, those aren't the same guy? And be like, no, this guy allegedly died like in the 80s. And then right afterwards, William H. Macy became an actor in the 80s. And these things are happening, guys. Like, I've seen many cases of this, but William H. Macy and Dan Daria was one of the only ones that I could show people that's very, very compelling. Like, to where you'd almost go like, yeah, what is up with that? Because you must like agree that they got to be like brothers, or like maybe father and son or something. Because it's the speech pattern. It's, you know, William H. Macy's got a way he speaks, right? If you've ever watched his films or whatever, he's got a way he talks. Sorry to integrate William H. Macy into this, guys, but that's what made me think of it. There's a headstone here. If you look carefully, I'll zoom in on it. William H, 1888 to 1932.
William H.
Give it a second here. I'm trying to increase the resolution.
For the record, I knew Zona Wilson, and she was always really nice to me.
That's my great-great-grandmother on my mother's side.
So again, guys, this isn't me coming up here and showing you some names and trying to be salacious. I'm not going to tell you that any of these names of these people or their families are bad. That's not my point. In fact, that's not even the goal here. It's just that I need to talk about our family history more openly so that we can solve the problem. And we're talking about history, okay? But it's serious. And
all right. So I basically was just showing you that really quick, just as a quick like buffer on, you know, that's what's going on. This is why I know. This is the research I did. That's the area that I went out to. So in this presentation, guys, I'm going to show you maps where you can see the actual locations of everything. So where I'm not just speaking about it as purely whatever. I want to give you guys an overview of what you just saw, the locations, where they are, and you know what the codex is, what the ciphers are, because Nazis, like, the best thing I can tell you is like that facility there in California, it's like their Ellis Island. The same way a lot of Americans that enter in the right way and you know come in through the they kind of look at well, it's not as much like that anymore, but there was a time in our culture, it started ending like in the 90s. It's strange how nobody associates the Statue of Liberty with that anymore. It's not like promoted the way it used to be, but it used to be like the thing of the immigrant to say I'm welcome in America. They would look up to the Statue of Liberty as that symbol of saying that, you know, hey, America is a place where I can be something different. I can start over. I can be whatever. You know, we can go there. We can all work together and become part of this new Atlantis, which is I personally believe that's and a lot of others do. By the way, I didn't get that out of thin air. That America was designed to be the new Atlantis. That we are here to be a beacon, you know, and I don't think that we should let that go. I think what we have to do now is show people globally what it looks like when you actually take care of the shit, that we'll take care of it. We're going to handle this here. We're not going to be aggressive. See, there's a way we can go about it. I mean, it's going to require a little bit of it, but you have to show these people that are in charge of these things that we're no longer going to tolerate it, and they have to give up the switches. They have to step down and for real. Not just step down, then have like 10 of their friends laid out in a row to take over for them that they control from a distance. Because that's what I've been seeing happening. I was told a lot of these people were going to give up, and they haven't. What they've been doing is delaying everything, installing all of us in these false narratives and making us all believe something's going to happen, while they just start staging more and more sophisticated ways of staying in control. Elon Musk. God, you guys. Oh, anyways.
Everybody, just want to do my follow-up to some of the things about Operation Paperclip, and just to provide a little bit of alternative narratives to some of the existing information about those programs.
Right.
In my research, it seems like a lot of this leads back to the Tule Lake area and the segregation camp that was out there that housed the German POWs and also had some of the Nazi scientists, presumably in the surrounding communities at the time. I believe that once I'm through with this material, I'll be able to draw some pretty clear correlations between, you know, very specific family names, although I'm not sure I'm going to get quite into that material exactly online, but I will be able to draw clear correlations between things that are going on in our country right now and this specific region and some of the history that dates back to World War II. In order to do so, though, we're going to have to talk about colloquialisms. And these are just sort of like phrases and the etymology of words that are kind of specific to certain regions, like rural communities, for example. So like, you know, maybe in parts of the country where it's more southern or rural, they might say things like, well, you know, man, that's just how we do, you know, and that might be the same phraseology that maybe in the North they might say, yeah, that's how we do things around here, meaning, you know, that's how things are done. That's how things are accomplished, you know, to be more specific. So the reason why that's important is because colloquialisms are sort of a way to hide phraseology and words in ways that only people in specific areas or regions would understand, especially in the United States, because the English language is pretty malleable. You know, you can kind of, a lot of slang and things like that associated with it, and colloquialisms are a part of that. And a lot of those colloquialisms originate with some of the secret societies, like, you know, the Freemasons, Oddfellows, Rebecca's, things like that. And so as we're talking about etymology of words, etymology being, you know, like, how did they get formed? How did they get passed from one group to the other? How did this language or the reconstruction of this language occur? And one specific word is shenanigans, right? That's another word that I guess you could say would have like a etymology that could be traced back. I'm not sure exactly where shenanigans traces back to. That'd be a whole different topic for another presentation. But I thought it was relevant to this discussion because what I'm trying to do is help law enforcement do their jobs better and help provide support to them. So I want them to understand that I'm a person that has the work that they do at heart, and that I care about them getting good information through which to do their jobs. And that it goes across the board for people in all forms of law enforcement and our intelligence agencies. I want everybody to have good quality information through which to do their jobs. And so when I started discovering what I thought to be some telecom and energy exploits that could potentially tie back to this region, I wanted to be able to discuss it in a way that was both, you know, open, but to where I could just get through it to the point where I don't have to constantly discuss, you know, etymology, colloquialisms, how these things tie back to certain secret societies. We have to get past that discussion very quickly. Otherwise, people are going to roll their eyes and go, oh, no, it's another thing about the Freemasons, or, oh, no, it's, and that's not where I'm coming from with any of this. I don't have a problem with any of these groups. Again, I know that this is how things got done historically. So I'm not going to be.
Yeah, so somebody says it goes deeper than that. It's the Khazarian mob pulling their strings, and so I don't disagree. What I'm suggesting to you is that what is the Nazi Party? What are the Nazis? What are they really actually promoting, and who really is? What is their etymology when you really dig deep into it? They were doing something very similar, like they were creating like an inverted mirror of Judaism and Kabbalah, using this sort of neo-pagan. And shifting it into a neo-pagan, like polygamist model of religion, because they want to do something similar with their perspective. You understand? Like, so the Jewish religion and faith or whatever has things involving like the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and other esoteric concepts that discuss how we all perceive reality and what the fabric of life is, I guess you could say. And I think what the Nazis have sought to do is to, again, sort of like what the Frankists did, you know, Sabbatean Frankists. I mean, they weren't Jewish. What they did was they took Judaism and they inverted it. They took all those beliefs and they actually converted into a very satanic belief system that completely spiraled it into this, you know, decadent, do anything to anybody, nearly Crowley's wet dream come true. Do what thou wilt, be the rule of the law. Everybody doing what thou wilt. It was Frankian, the Frankists, the Sabbatean Frankists. And so Sabbatean, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. And so, you know, that's why I don't like to get into this whole quote, the Jew thing, because I think that that's inaccurate. I don't really think that that's really the actual thing. I think what you really have are groups that steal a belief system and invert it and create a mirror of it to take something that is explaining a concept that is life affirming to turn it into a concept that is non-life affirming. And that's not really that challenging to really understand if you know what the Nazis are doing. Their goal is to terraform the earth. They understand the earth for what it truly is. It is being bent into physical resonance through collective brainwave. That collective brainwave, if you define how everybody defines what the earth is, you change the nature of what the earth is. So having global influence over the media is critically important to anybody who wants to do this, which is why I say, if you really want to take out the real Nazis, you have to find where they are within the media and you have to remove them. mockingbird journalists that aren't actually reporting just have to be eradicated. They have to be removed. I don't mean like, killed. I just mean like you just can't have them in those jobs. You have to make what they do almost to be, when somebody's doing weaponized disinformation, that's not really free speech. And I don't know how I don't know what the tricky road is here, how you're going to define one versus the other, but some of these people are just doing weaponized lying. They're doing weaponized disinformation to us and to other people. And that's not consistent with our values. It just isn't. It is weaponizing psychoenergetics. Media is weaponized psychoenergetic manipulation. It's called mass resonance manipulation and structural psychology. There's even documentation that details the precise methods of what they do and why it's effective. And it was considered a psychological warfare weapon. And so to this day, because remember, how were the satellites launched into space? How? How was our concept of even a satellite being up in space defined? How? And who threw? Nazis. That's the truth, and that's the reality. Just wake up, folks, to that reality. Because again, that's why I don't sit around there and pretend I know everything about what is or isn't. I don't sit there and go like, I know the Earth is this or that, or I know what is. But I do know that we're bending it all with plasma. So I know having like a flat Earth versus round Earth argument's worthless, because we're bending it with plasma. And we're doing it through this curved lens that we exist in, because that's partly done through this, because our eyes are like this. And this is how we receive the energy. And that's why we perceive things in these curved mirrors. There's an inverse of energy. So we have something that goes inputs this way, the way you develop photo from a camera. We know we're in digital photos now. Nobody does this anymore. But back in the film days, you took these film strips in this roll, and somebody took it into a photo lab, and it looked, monochrome when they put it inside this thing, and then they turn into a color image. Having the different shades of monochrome expresses in different colors when the inverse is created through the production of the photograph. Same thing happens through everything we input into our eyes, our ears, and everything that vibrates around us. All of that is shaping our physical reality. Then we share that with others. We're like communicating like cell towers talk to one another. We're doing that etherically with everything that we define in our visual perception based on the energy inputs and oscillating frequencies of everything that surrounds us. Is it actually there? It's oscillating frequencies bending plasma. And so we're seeing something in front of us, but it's a shared agreement on what that signature of that plasma is relative to how we're all sharing that agreement frequency wise. That's all I believe personally. And Nazis know this. And so my suggestion to you is that it's vitally important for them to control the media globally for that very reason. So that's why we've all been hoodwinked, and it's a forgivable hoodwinking, guys. We really should be like forgiving to ourselves and one another for being slow to figuring it out. And I do actually think some of our global partners and the people that are like in other countries that are like looking at America, I think they have been kind of like, I really hope that they figure this out, because an enlightened, educated, and aware America is way better for us than the one that we've got right now. I believe the rest of the world wants us to be smarter, wants us to understand this better, because our lack of understanding of Eastern mysticism and their traditions is partly what's keeping us in the dark on all the things that are important to know right now. We don't take it seriously. We don't take human energy concepts and human energy transfer, this whole relationship with bending plasma fields seriously. But if you go to India, if you go to Korea, if you go to China, if you go to Japan, if you go to all of these, if you investigate the Tibetan monks, if you look into ancient Indian mysticism, Hindu mysticism, you look into even the basics of some of the religions and some of the spiritual leaders in India, they all understand oscillating frequencies, human energy fields, and they have visual diagrams that explain it all in numbers and colors and everything. And again, it goes back centuries. But in the West, led by Nazis, guess it, what's the one thing that we just get totally blinded by? Like, you don't know this, you don't know this, you don't know this. Oh, Gaia, New Age, Mother Earth. Ugh, you don't want to know that. It's hippies, right? Oh, hippie crap. You don't want to know that. It's for hippies, right? And if it's not the taking it over, it's the other ones that are like turning it all into this, like going,
you know, guys, this was all brought over by the Blue Palladians from the multiverse universe, and they've been communicating to me from the planet Moron. And the Morananis, they exclusively talk to me through my YouTube channel that you can subscribe to for only $50 a month if you want to know what the Blue Palladians are talking about also. So that's kind of what you get, is like the characters that are going to tell you that it's all coming from aliens instead of you. I mean, you create it. You do. It's actually all happening through you. But is there something external from us? Is there an inverse of us that's out there? Of course there is. And they're looking at it the same way as us. See, we're an inverse of them. They're an inverse of us. And somewhere out there, there's an echo and a harmonic of them too on the other side of us. You know, like you have the overlapping circular grids. So we have this in common in this dimension. They have that in common on that dimension. They have that in common on that dimension. They're all harmonics of one another, experiencing this multiverse simultaneously through Bell's theorem. We're creating it all. You got it. Everybody here. Oh, we got a great crowd. God, I love these comments. So yeah, I mean, again, the Nazis all get this. So America's got to, like, you know, it's to me, this is like what I'm doing is about America's defense too. To me, like giving this education is about the best thing that I can do to do my part. I mean, I tried to do it otherwise. I volunteered even, but I was like, well, I'm too old. So to me, the best thing I can do for this country is to try to make sure that we all have a clear understanding of energetics, bioenergetics, psychoenergetics, and how we form and structure reality. And it is done through frequency, vibration, and energy. And I don't want to just say that like it's some Tesla slide. Everybody's like, when you understand this, you'll have the keys to the universe. Boo. Well, that's cool. And thank you for putting out the challenge. And I don't mind people saying that. But people need more than that. And so again, somebody else, and again, I applaud them. I don't want them to think I was bitter, but somebody said the other day, like, well, if you're going to criticize Elon, then tell us what we should do. Okay, that's a good point. And I don't want that person to think I'm upset by that, you know. But I will say that I do believe personally that I've been doing things that are very meaningful. And what I mean to say is that I do meditate. I do focused concentration and meditation, and I do it in key areas that are geographically significant. I use my energy signature in ways that are meaningful. I focus and concentrate on things, especially near the ocean, in ways that are absolutely meaningful, both in the etheric and in physical reality, both. I do meaningful actions on both sides. And I try to explain that to people. One is powerful, the other is powerful. But if you really want to get the bridge, okay, you do things that are spiritual and physical simultaneously. You throw it out in the number one. I believe things should begin. Well, no, I don't even believe. All things begin in the spiritual first, because they have to begin as an idea. They have to come into your mind. And nothing's physical yet. Correct? We all can agree on that? Nothing's physical yet. So the minute you have the idea, it's aether. It's not physical. So, I mean, just thinking about building a table, it all begins etherically. It all begins as bions. So somewhere out there, there's a message inside the bionosphere. Let's call it the bionosphere. Out there, there's this huge database, this cloud, just like there's a cloud that you push your files to that they've mimicked, because everything in technology mimics human consciousness, I promise you. If they're telling you to push all your files up to the universal cloud, it's because they're aware there's a universal cloud where all of our, like an Akashic record, it's all accessible to us right now. All those files, all the world's history, all the free technology, the 0 point energy, it's up there. It really is. It's waiting to be accessed. It really, truly is. It's been accessed. Here's the thing, guys. This is the crazy thing. We all say it's there to be accessed, but it has been. So what's going on? Well, now you have to get back to the Nazis. Because again, the secret is making sure we don't know this so that we won't even investigate. Like, wait a minute. Didn't a guy invent a water car back in the 80s? Where the fuck is he? They're like, no, you do not see him. You do not see him. He's dead now. You do not see his water car. Sorry about my shitty German accent. I mean, but God, man, I swear it's just like, it's trippy how much they got. Okay, so shenanigans. I'm going to get back into this article because this gets into the actual details of it. And I don't want this to be, I want to talk about Runaway, guys, while still doing the Nazi thing here. And I'm going to wrap it up after one or two of these stories, and I want to finish this one.
be a person that tells you yay for these groups or boo or any of those things. That's not my goal. Okay. But in light of that, you know, an example of a colloquialism and a use in modern, you know, I guess entertainment would be the movie Super Troopers. They use the word shenanigans, and this is just something that, you know, like a group of me and people that I used to know, we used to talk about this as like a concept, you know, about shenanigans, like how some people have like a really wicked sense of humor where they just really don't know when to stop, you know, and they're kind of like just brutal with it. Like it just goes beyond the level of being fun. You know, sometimes you're just messing around, you're poking fun, and you know, it's not that big a deal, and you're just trying to like maybe smooth the rough edges off a person's personality. That's kind of like good shenanigans. But like, you know, evil shenanigans is when somebody just kind of transfers. It's not even shenanigans. So that's kind of what the movie talks about. It's like, you know, hey man, our shenanigans are cheeky and fun. And they're just saying like, yeah, we just play pranks. We like to, you know, help people move along a little bit by messing with them. This other guy, he's just brutal and violent. He's just lashing out at people. And they're talking about one of their coworkers, you know. And so they're just trying to like draw a distinction, like, hey man, you know, don't lump us in with those Martians. You know, we're different. We're not like them. And so I want people out there to know that I acknowledge that. I know there's a lot of people out there that, you know, they're not doing anything wrong, and I don't think that they are. So I don't want to see a bunch of people that are involved with the Odd Fellows or the Rebeccas or the Freemasons get lumped in with a bunch of people that are exploiting some of their methods of communicating in a way that, you know, wouldn't be in keeping with their traditions. And if you understand the way the Nazi Party worked, this is classic Nazi methodology. And so as I'm talking about Operation Paperclip, what you understand, as I mentioned this in my last report, is during World War II, they were taking over Freemasonic lodges. So one has to assume that if you had a cluster of people that were POWs from Germany and they were still employing the same strategy, they would have tried to gain access to, you know, Oddfellow orders, Rebecca orders, Freemasonic lodges, because those are really your way in every single town. And if once you have access to those areas, then you understand that those people a lot of times were in charge of, you know, caves, tunnel systems. And in this region, you know, you can look this up. There's a lava bed national monuments and things like that. The cave systems are vast and they're everywhere. So these were the keepers of the caves. And so you can understand why during Operation Paperclip, as we imported these scientists around 1945, that this would have been a key area that they would have wound up. Yet in our official history, there doesn't seem to be anything that traces back to that. So all I'm trying to do is offer you an alternative narrative based on personal experience, things that I've witnessed myself. I've actually gone to these cemeteries. I've looked at these things. I've studied these societies. I have quite a few family members that were part of these esoteric societies. And at least one has actually told me to my face that they remember. Okay. So that's why, you know, it's important that I be able to discuss this openly so that you understand that I'm not just a guy that's, you know, screaming conspiracy. It's far from it, actually. I don't have any problems with these groups. There's quite a bit of things that I like about them. I'm certain that I've spent a considerable amount of time with people that were Rebeccas or Oddfellows or Freemasons who just didn't tell me at the time because I didn't ask. And, you know, we got along great. So no problems there. And still, I'm not an enemy of any of these organizations. If anything, what I'd like to do is just make sure that those who are just doing what they should be doing are not given greater scrutiny or judged unfairly than deservedly. So in keeping with that, I went out to what's a community called Merrill, Oregon, which is really close to the Oregon and California border. And at Merrill, at the intersection of Cemetery and Anderson Road, pretty close to there, is a independent, sorry, I say international, but it's independent order of Oddfellow Cemetery.
By the way, guys, I've without saying too much because it's a pretty common name, so I don't think I'm not going to say any first names, but it's interesting to me that they did use Anderson Road for the Oddfellow Cemetery, because quite a few of the people that I've seen that are James Pettigrews, who's the Oddfellow connected to my mother, who's a Rebecca, he alleged that only have one child, and that was my mother. Okay, so my mother's always said that her pedophile father was, you know, only what she was the only child of him. But in my research, I've found records that would indicate he had several children. And I learned that a couple of them seem to be using the name Anderson. So I was like, well, that makes sense, because that would be a code name they would use if that's where all of them lead back to, is the Oddfellows Cemetery on Anderson Road and Cemetery Road. That's the intersection of it. So I'm like, that totally makes sense to me now. So that's kind of how they do things, guys. And, you know, you might find it also interesting that some of the property records out there, should I even say it? The same name of the guy that's connected to some of these Twitter file things, guys. And again, it's a common name. A lot of people, even in government, have had it. But there's a name connected to the records close to that cemetery that is also named James Baker. James Baker is the name that's connected to these recent Elon Twitter things. Isn't that interesting? Because if you know the truth, you know how they do things. When there's data like mine that I show, and I can actually show you property records that show that the Bakers own property next to that cemetery, they'll just co-opt the name, you know, and hire somebody who authentically has a name, or just create a character to be in charge of something within their narrative. The FBI does this all the time. So if they're obscuring things involving their effery and their connection to all the things they hid on this, because the FBI knows all this information, guys, especially when it comes to my grandfather, like they have the information now, and they have made no inquiries also. Don't you find it interesting that, like, I've been trying to report to them for a long time that I come from a family that had awareness that my grandfather was a serial child molester. He confessed, everybody knows, and he never did a day in jail. That's so strange to me. And then he got sued by one of his victims. And because a couple people from the family testified on his behalf that he wasn't a child molester, and I know both of them were lying, then, I mean, guys, that's like insane to me that this went on since the 80s. But that shows you the power of these people. They can erase the track record of somebody like that and make you all forget it. And they all went on with their merry lives. They all went on to thrive and have good careers and everything after he did that. And I'm learning over and over again that he's not the only person that molested children or was caught with graphic child pornography that was protected. It's disturbing to me. And I'm sick of it. And I'm demanding justice. I'm demanding that there be more inquiries on this. But they won't do anything. Do you guys understand what a fuck situation we're in America? Does the rest of the world understand what a fuck situation we're in? This is what I've been dealing with face head on, guys, for years now. I hope you understand that. When somebody says, Gabe, what have you done? Are you really on our side? I have put myself out there like you would not believe. And so I'm not insulted by the question. I want you to know, go look up FBI. Just go into my channel and look up FBI. And you're going to see I've reported in front of their offices on more than a dozen occasions. I did 2 reports in front of the Portland FBI Bureau, and I did about a dozen in front of the Nevada FBI Bureau. And I personally visited the Portland FBI Bureau before I ever started doing any journalism type stories or any type of reporting. I personally went in there. That's partly what motivated to be more of a field reporter, was I realized that, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm such an optimist. I was so naive that my honest belief at the time, when they didn't listen to me, I was thinking to myself, oh man, they're intimidated by the mafia, or they just don't understand. I'll teach them. That's what a Boy Scout I was about this shit. I had to learn the hard way. No, they just don't give a shit. They don't want a solution to these problems. They just want to integrate them into a larger mafia that they're managing, make us believe that crime is being fought when it's really being managed. And I think that's why there's now been such a push to legalize so many things that before nobody would have ever thought to legalize. They're trying it out in different areas to see how it'll work, to see what it'll look like when they can have just basically be allowed to do things. I've been in Oregon, guys, for a while, and I can tell you that it's not pretty. Take a look at Oregon and California. California is doing it way more aggressively than Oregon, but Oregon took it a couple steps further, but that's only because you can get away with like legalizing some things in Oregon because it is such a quiet area that if you tried doing that in California, it would have exploded by now. They like legalizing all the drugs and things like that, like they did in Oregon. In Oregon, guys, pretty much everything's like they kind of did soft tolerance, guys. Most people don't really even understand that. A person, it would be very, very difficult for a person to get arrested for anything drug related in Oregon. And who do you think took advantage of that environment? Now, again, guys, I'm going to be straight up with you. I've always been a person that felt like tolerance is a better model. I still do. But I don't think that means you just straight up don't do any enforcement. There's obviously things out there that are causing harm. So yeah, on some level, some people just have to learn the hard way. And I am kind of like I'm rigid on that. Yeah, some people just have to like do something and learn that it makes them sick or it makes them act bad and people don't like them anymore. And that's their lesson. And then they go and seek treatment and hopefully they become better people as a result of that happening in their lives. See, that's what I hope is that if people do get into those things, that they just go through the lesson and they figure it out. And then over time, that when we merge into a more of a model like that, then it's more of a harm reduction model, then fewer people do it over time because there's not such a taboo behind it. Sometimes people just chase after something because it's illegal. They want the high, sure. But the lack of education from the illegality and the inability for people to communicate about it openly, it creates a level of ignorance. And then people go and do things that they're not educated to do. And they wind up having reactions that they're not prepared for. And a lot of them get taken advantage of or have bad things happen to them. So I'm not really like a big pro, like rigid one way or the other, guys. I just believe in taking a more balanced and pragmatic approach to it. That's all. And I've seen the pros and cons of both in action, guys. And it can be ugly on both sides of this type of legislation. But Oregon did something kind of weird with it. That's all. So anyways, that's why I wanted to explain to you the Anderson thing. And so those of you who might know me better and might have known me for a long time and might know things that got close to me, that may help you understand something a little bit better about why I draw associations to certain data points and that I think are more relevant. And I have to be a little bit coded with that one, guys, but it's just because there's some reasons why. Not for any harm or anything like that. It's just to keep out of trouble for some things. But yeah, James J. Pettigrew, as far as I'm concerned, my mother wasn't his only daughter. And that was like when I started realizing that was just one of many lies that my mother had said about her family. That's when I knew the Nazi thing is probably true. See what I'm saying? Like, what would be the reason to lie about that? And then you start learning that Nazis that are in America are hiding their genetics. They're hiding their lineage. They're hiding their kin. So that the reason why that he would have several kids and then splinter them off all over the place if he was part of the Nazis is because of this. He would be aware at some point that the ones that he personally trained to further his agenda, they would come after them if they were all a cluster that knew each other and were conscious and aware of each other and were already partnering with each other. There would be signs of it that would be demonstrated open and they would be traceable. So the way the Nazis really did things was to like trade kids and swap kids. They did it all over the place. And I've had people tell me this to my face that this is a method. And they had these little gene farms that they would set up like in rural communities just like this. So a guy that was trying to spread the Nazi genes, who was like a leader of the Nazis, he would have a whole bunch of kids in this area, like boom, stick around with like a wife or whatever, knock her up, move over to one of the other regions and work someplace seasonally or something like that, knock somebody else up, go someplace else like that, knock somebody else up, and just cycle through all these different, they call them hog farms, but that was just human genome, HG. And they would just act like they're pig farms, hog, HG. But they were human genome farms. So when they tell you that elites raise children, some just to be killed, yes. See, it depends on, like, are you going to be one that they can turn into a Nazi? If the answer is no, then you're gone. It's just a matter of how quick you are relative to the other ones. If you're a problem for them like me, they'll take steps to make you gone. If you're not a problem and you don't have high value organs that they're waiting for and you're not that healthy, then they'll probably leave you alone. Me, I'm very healthy. My organs are in good shape. I don't have a lot of bad habits. Last year I've been eating a lot of junk food, to be honest with you, but up until this point though, I'm actually in really good shape though, because I had a job that was physical. But see, they want that. That's what they want. Organs that are healthy. So their goal at this point is for me to be brain dead and land in a hospital. And then it can be like, that's our so-and-so, that's our relative. I really hope they get better. Turn the switch off. Well, he would have wanted his organs to go to a good place. For the record, guys, none of those people could ever say that about me. I don't want my organs going anywhere. And I definitely don't want it going to any of them. And I don't authorize it. And I made very clear, I'm not a donor, and I don't want my organs going to anybody. It's a belief system that I almost consider a religion now. If I have a religion, that's it. Don't donate my organs to nobody. And it's because of the human harvesting element of what's going on in our country right now. Normally, I'd be all about it. I don't want to be a selfish person. I'd love to donate my organs to somebody who needs it. But it's not done for that now. What they're using it for now is to put you on a waiting list. And if you're a rare blood type, definitely don't. If you ask me, if you're a rare blood type, you should especially take yourself off the list. And if you do want to be a donor, then pre-select it. Somebody that you trust that you know won't actually run you off the fucking road to make you brain dead to steal your organs from you. Because now that's how they do it. If you're a political enemy of somebody, or just like if a rich person doesn't like you and you've got Rh negative and O blood type, kiss your life goodbye. Like in this country, you have no rights. It's that bizarre. They're not admitting to it on any level, but that's the reality. And it's a tiered thing. It's not simply Rh negative and O blood type. It's, I would say, your rights dissipate based on the rarity of your blood. And plasma, both. If you have valued plasma, blood, or bioplasma, you have almost no rights in this country. You're being monitored, you're being tracked, you're being tagged, you're being followed. I'm not saying that to make you paranoid. I mean, I think there's some people that already know. They already understand it. They're just trying to get like why and how. It's the organ harvesting element, I tell you. That's it. Don't let them fool you into thinking it's a bunch of this other shit. Some of those other things can play factors into getting you put into that matrix, but ultimately what it boils down to is they created a whole bunch of these like NGOs that partner with nonprofit political organizations that take in really high-end donors that have very questionable values. And then they form partnerships with nonprofit hospitals. And then they own privately owned EMS companies. And then they have some EMS that are just patrolling, waiting for organs. And they have other ones that are patrolling, actually doing, or waiting to actually do out legitimate calls and go out there and like save people and actually address people and do emergency things. But there's a huge chunk of this privately owned emergency managed services, ambulance services, that are just there doing organ harvesting activities and are set up to do things that are in other things. I've even, guys, I mean, I used to be the kind of person that would question that until I really started spending a lot of time in certain areas, just stationary or going around in circles in certain areas, and really observing that there were some like EMS ambulances that were just placing themselves in key areas and always hanging out there, almost like they were a taxi cab. And it really made me wonder. I'm like, I'm seeing them again. I see this ambulance more than 7-Elevens, man. What the hell? Convenience stores. Sorry, guys, for those of you who don't know what the 7-Elevens are. Although I guess that would hold true also the numbers 7 and 11 too, right? Anyways. All right, I'll play the rest of this clip. I don't mean to keep interrupting it.
And so I went out there and I actually kind of walked around and took a look and shot a lot of video footage and pictures of the headstones. I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to put that footage in this presentation, but I do have it, and I just out of respect for family members. But I would say that those looking for some key
Obviously,
pieces
I
to the puzzle,
against that.
you should really study
later on.
the IOOF Merrill Cemetery very well, and understand the origins of the families, potentially, and their connection to the POW camp at the Tule Lake Segregation Center. Because in my research, that seems to play heavily into this. Now, if you go out on Tule Lake, you'll notice that, and this is true about all these communities, a lot of numerology and angles and triangles in particular. Now, this is common to esoteric societies. There's things they do with ley lines, energy lines, the way that caves and volcanic systems tend to travel, and how they try to follow natural volcanic lines. Things that they do with ley line and grid energy, all part of these groups and their esoteric knowledge. Tule Lake, well, after you leave Merrill and you head south, you head on 39 to Highway 50, and then 50 connects to 139, and 139 connects to 113. So just to give you a quick primer into, why you need to start paying more attention to this, is because in 139 equals ACI. And then you'll notice that the Tule Lake Segregation Center is right off the intersection of Highway 139 and 113. AAC. Okay, so just try to keep this in mind, alphanumerics, because these things are going to play into our discussions in the future. Because what the Oddfellows and Rebecca's do is they shuffle.
Guys, I mean, I'm going to be real with you, man. There's somebody that's really close to this story that I've talked about. I'm not going to say who they are. They literally put that highway number on their fucking license plate and acted like it was organically sent to them that way. Like, oh no, I was just given this number. And it just happens to be like, that's where they're from. And that's what the first 3 numbers on their license plate is. It's right where all their family's from and probably where they were born. But then they claim ignorance about all this. That's the kind of shit that's surrounding me. They have things like that they do right in front of me, then act, and then they play dumb. So we're all experiencing in this country this form of gaslighting. I know where it leads back to, you guys. It happens to me too, and I know how they're doing it, and I know who it is. I know who forms the architecture of it. I'm asking America, are you done with this shit yet? Because get on Team Gabe and we'll solve it together. Understand? I got a solution for just about everybody to get out of this shit. And it's pretty easy to do. Soft. They'll let go. Trust me, like the way that I want to do this, the way I can do this, and the way we can all work together to get these people out of power is so much easier than you think it is. And it does not require some huge military action. And I promise you that most of the people that have designed this and structured it are huge effing pussies. They will give up in a heartbeat once they're directly confronted. The key is they avoid the direct confrontation. They won't acknowledge that all this is happening around them. They refuse to even let this in. My guess is half the time they hire somebody else to watch what I'm doing, then report back to them what I'm saying, because they don't even want to let me into their visual perception or hear my actual voice, because they understand how vibration, frequency, energy manifests things into physical reality. That's why they go, la, 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 I don't hear you. They do. Have you noticed that some of your adversaries, that's kind of their method, and you wonder, like, why would you shut yourselves off to even information that you may want to know about, like what people know about you? Because they understand everything about frequency, energy, and vibration. They don't even want to let criticism that might actually help them understand what's coming at them. So You know, we got to, it just starts with, guys, we have to like really form something meaningful, like really. I mean, and then I've already kind of done my part. I mean, I've stepped out of my old life in a really meaningful way. And I know other people who have too. And all I know is that anytime I experience any degree of success, I'm going to make sure to bring in all those other people who I know have stepped out in meaningful ways and have had to make huge, you know, like they don't make as much money as they used to. They've done things to help me out that are like that really got me down the road. And so I'm not going to leave anybody behind. As much as I can, I'm going to try to find as many of the people that have helped me along this journey, and to make sure that we're all together in this and that we're all solving this together. I don't want anybody to be left behind, because this has been a huge pain in the ass to deal with. And like, dude, like when you're trying to even like people say all the time who come to this channel, I'm sure there's at least one or two that's in here right now that'll even say like, I'm sure somebody will say, yeah, me, and it's okay. But there's people that go like, yeah, like there's a time where I shut off your channel because you were pissing me off, man. Or you said something and maybe I actually genuinely did. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry or not. I don't know. But sometimes I actually do say things that piss people off and I don't want to, and I'm sorry about those times. Other times it's just because that's your reaction to something I'm saying that's true. But my point is that a lot of people will say like, I stopped subscribing to your channel and I shut you off and stopped watching you for a long time because I got pissed off or I disagreed with something or whatever else like that. But they wind up coming back and then they go like, yeah, but then I figured out what it was. And a lot of times I think they were going through the same thing that I was. I don't like using the word trigger, but I mean like you start having this disassociation type thing going on where you're like, you can't accept it. You're like, it's somebody's telling you something that is so in contradiction to what you have been trained to believe. And you feel like somebody's trying to trick you into believing something absurd. And then you start to begin over time that no, it's that reality is absurd, and that the trick has been to get us to accept the absurd reality that is not reality. It's tricking us into accepting their characters. And I started definitely noticing it on YouTube. I'm like, these people don't exist, you guys. I cannot tell you how many people that are on YouTube that you kept on trying to get me to go like, Gabe, go watch this person. Go on. That's, guys, I'm not banning people in my channel. And I used to do that, guys. I used to like go like, no, I'm deleting that. No, I'm deleting that. Don't present that in here. Now I'm leaving it up. And I had a reason that I think is still valid. It's simply because a lot of people would use my channel to basically steer people that were interested in my information into fake characters. So now I almost like going, look, guys, use your own discernment. I'll leave the statements up here, but you must know if there's a person that constantly comes in my room and lists about several people that you should pay attention to, and they all have names that kind of sound like puns, that person is either hopelessly clueless about what they're promoting, or they're genuinely going out of their way to promote that they know are false because there's hidden codes and ciphers in the characters that they're sending to you. And if I've never heard of most of the people they're talking about, they seem to be new, it's definitely that. Because people will come in here and literally troll me by getting into my chat and doing deals because they want to make it look like I'm doing the same shit as Mockingbird journalists. And again, it's that whole inversion thing and doing something right next to you that's fucked up while you're doing something that's actually pretty decent. So sorry when they do it, guys. I'm letting you know though, like I don't buy it. And if you can see through it, don't worry, I can too. That's okay. But again, discernment. They always come in and they try to use this channel to try to promote like fake character after fake character after fake character. A lot of whom, when you really, really dig deep into it, have these larger, like suspicious sort of like Nazi-esque leanings and everything like that, even when they're claiming to be poking at it. It's like, really? Seriously? All right, guys, I'll finish this one up here. We'll get through it. We're almost there. But I wanted to show you this, though, because this map actually shows you 113. That's a segregation camp. And right here is Highway 139. And so that's why those numbers are pretty relevant to them. Okay, 139, 113, and then everything within it, 11, 13. So if it's 139, then the numbers 13 and 39. And again, 39 is one of the ones that they use frequently that a lot of people probably don't even associate with being one of their magic numbers. But I see it. I see them doing it. I see them putting it out there. And part of the reason why is because they believe a lot in magic as far as anchoring energy So if they go and witness the signs 139 and 113 over and over again, like my mother did when she was out there, okay? She lived there. It was Highway 139. She's conscious and aware it's Highway 139. She saw that number over and over and over again while staying there, okay? So that adds an energy to it. All of the Nazis that were out there saw the number 39 and 139. Then they buried a lot of their family out there on Highway 39. So there's 139 and it links to Highway 39. 39 is where Merrill is. 139 is where the Tule Lake segregation camp is. And so these people are heavy into numerology. So they place their family up on a hilltop. They know all these different names are surrounding it. So they're building up energy. And this is frequency, energy, vibration. This is why they're into sacrifice. It does the same thing, but this is how they build their name up and build their influence up. King of the hill, burying themselves at the top of the hill, making sure that all the kinfolk that follow them, that have a DNA link to that hilltop where they're all buried, constantly reinforce the location into the mass collective consciousness, putting the numbers out for you to see. 13, 139, 39, 11, 13, 113, 139. Boo, 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 boo. Why do you think they love Friday the 13th so much? 13 times 3 equals 39, right? Triple 13s is the number 39. So you have mafias that are named like MS-13. The M. A lot of people, M is 13, right? Why do you think that's a pun? Nazis come up with that shit. They thought it up somewhere, but no. And Nazis thought up that. Because it's literally, that's NLP. M is 13. It's a pun. M is IS 13. Because it's the 13th letter of the alphabet. So they'll create a gang named MS-13. MS-13. M is, see, neuro-linguistic programming. Subliminal guy. Like I was saying the other day, listen to the radio. Listen to the radio. The Orb had that song that starts off, listen to the radio. Listen to the radio. Listen to the radio. Like ways to insert other words into other words. They do it with every single thing within the collective consciousness because it builds energy, because everything we exist in what we perceive as a physical universe begins as a spiritual universe. And the more they can place into the spiritual, the thoughts become things aspect of our daily reality, the more they can anchor their influence within our physical reality to them specifically. And so they've been working on this within America for decades, getting us to focus and concentrate on their numbers, their numerology, their symbols, their signs, their family names. Without us even knowing it, we've given them the power. And that's why to this day, cracking this within inside our own consciousness is a challenge. This is why I'm asking like those on the outside waiting for us to catch up and figure it out. Like, I hope this is helping. Because I have faith in America. I believe in America. I think that we're smarter than this. And I think that part of the perception surrounding how we're thinking is being engineered by bots and by faker characters and mockingbird journalists that aren't truly showing how most of America is actually thinking. And I don't even believe that we're 50-50 divided anymore. I actually think that most of America now at this point, I think about, I don't know, guys, I would say probably about 60-70% at least of America is thinking pretty commonly at this point. And I would say within that group, about 40 or 50% of them actually know it. And the other ones are still under the perception that they're thinking something different than the other one, if that makes sense. And then I think you really do have a group over here that are still buying it, that are still in that old school way of doing information, or still way too indoctrinated in the new school information sources. I think there's polarities existing within the new generation and the very, very old one. The old one's just scared for their existence. And they have, the tricks that always worked in the past continue to work now. And then this new generation just has their blinders on to what we're really existing in ways that would rival anything that happened to us. So we have to be patient with them and we have to educate them, and we have to have people that are actually going to be, bring it to them in a responsible way that's not tinfoil conspiracy hat and won't get them thrown out of school or locked up for being a QAnon person or some shit like that, like they're trying to do. trying to make it seem like all this is some weird, like, aggressive white nationalist, patriotic bullshit position. And it's not. This is just about being decent and having a true sense of history in America and about what we really are, and being honest with the world about what's going on here so that we can fix it ourselves. And then, and then hopefully, they'll like kind of understand what's going on here when they're viewing it from the outside, because I do have quite a bit of attention from the outside of our country, you guys, and people can mock that if they want to, but I can assure you, if you made the steps that I did, people say, Gabe, what have you done? I'll give you an example, guys. Like, I do things both within the spiritual and the physical. Okay, so yes, I focus, I concentrate, I meditate, I do my energy exercises, all that. I have crystals that I work with. And I don't do these things in non-meaningful ways. I mean, when I say I work with crystals, I don't mean like going, I'm contacting Archon and the Blue Palladians. No, I mean, it's nothing like that. It's I don't even know what most of that shit means. I'm just borrowing from terms that I hear others like talk about that I'm like, even if that's true, do you really have to go there if you know all these other things? Like, wouldn't it be just more beneficial just to give people the data and the information without all that shit attached to it? Or does it seem like you attach all that shit to it because you don't want anybody to take it seriously? Yeah. So Fredo said there's something happened out in Benton City, Washington, from an MS-13 gang member. And like, guys, I have no doubt like that the news story is repeating it, but I'm just telling you guys, like, there's a lot of lore that's just designed to keep you scared. Like, if it's reported that way, it probably didn't even happen that way. And again, it's going to be something they make hyper realistic and they want you to believe, but that's because they want everybody out there to be afraid. And all I can tell you is I know that that's probably one of the safest places to live, even though it's next to a nuclear reservation. As far as crime goes, it's really not that bad. But I mean, I know that some of that shit that goes on in Sunnyside, sorry, this is going to not make any sense to most of my audience, but the things that go on Sunnyside, Washington, because that's like a big heroin crime area, and Yakima too. But some of that extends over into Tri-Cities near the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. But I'd say overall, it's probably one of the safest places to live anywhere, especially compared to the places I've lived since then. I've lived in a lot more dangerous places than Benton City or Tri-Cities. But yeah, I have no doubt that things like that are being put in the news, though. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But I mean, how true one thing is versus another, I really don't know. I just know that they like it when that lore is out there. The people that want us all in this same whatever, in this same little game of duality, like, they love that shit. Because again, it promotes a certain narrative. It's this whole the anti-Mexican narrative, the we don't want any immigrants in this country thing. But again, guys, they're exploiting that racism thing and the whole thing with the border issues to actually bring in people that are pretty bad. I'm not saying all the people crossing the border illegally are bad. I'm saying that this whole issue, they take advantage of the liberal wanting, like, the Neil Diamond vision of we're coming to America. I was raised on that, man. Like, yeah, man, let's just get them over here, get them some jobs, man. There's all kinds of, we got enough opportunities for everybody. Any way it takes, let's do this. A lot of us used to think this way, guys. And I still have that kind of heart. I still feel like I want to like welcome as many people as possible. But let me explain something. All that is well and good. We can want to, and we can have the desire to in our hearts. It doesn't mean we always can. And it doesn't mean we always should. And what I mean to say is that certain people will take advantage of that sense of charity or that sense of need to integrate people into our culture to bring in people that really are not that. They'll just bring in cartels. They'll bring in people that they want to actually hijack our country as a private army that are just here to like bring in more drugs, bring in more human trafficking, and make those economies flourish in the areas where they have softer, more tolerant cultures. So again, guys, it's only because I've spent significant time in Oregon and California lately that I'm telling you I've seen the results of this, and it's not good. So I'm all about tolerance. I really am. I'm not going to change that perspective. I still believe that it's a better model, but you can't necessarily have tolerance with a sort of lack of enforcement because it seems like that's the way they interpreted it. Like, oh, well, they're going to go soft on people using it. But it's like, no, but then see, you have to, if you don't address, here's what I would argue. If you don't address human trafficking directly, then you're always going to have a certain element wrong with this soft tolerance of the drug economy, if you ask me. So number one, if you want to be soft on drugs, you have to be hard on human trafficking. Does that make sense? I believe in the model of being tolerant with drugs because to me, it's more of a free will decision. It's more something people need to learn from and have their own. Not everybody's the same, and not everybody responds the same way, and not everybody's irresponsible with their decisions. So I feel like what you really need to do is like, you have to have a happy balance between that way of looking at it, but still enforcing certain parts of the law and not just letting things flood in. And simultaneously, if you want to go soft on drugs as far as like the shipping them back and forth in, you have to be extremely like put the total lockdown on human trafficking. You have to place you have to have human trafficking have its own agency the way that the Drug Enforcement Agency does. In America, that's what's obscene. To me, that's the clearest sign that we've been Nazi'd up. We care more about tobacco, alcohol, and firearms, the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Then we've got the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. Wow, but not a single major agency dedicated to human trafficking and fighting it. Not a single dedicated agency dedicated to fighting child exploitation. Beyond that, you know what's really insane about this country? Not only do we not have those things, but in America, the FBI that's supposed to enforce these laws literally says, yeah, we don't have time for that. Polaris is going to answer all those phone calls for us, and they'll let us know if it's important and pass the tips along to us. Hey, how is Polaris going to run? I mean, they're a nonprofit, so how do they make money if they're just here to give information to you? Well, they get private donations. Oh, from who? Harvey Weinstein. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a fact. Did you know that? I'm not making that up. For those who haven't seen it, I can even show you a slide. Let me play this rest. This is the longest like 14-minute video ever.
Full, and they do alphanumerics, and they do 3-ring ciphers. And so keep that in mind and think of this like a puzzle, 113, 139, okay? Now, the history that's official out in this area is that we brought in some Italian and German POWs around 1944. That would have been about a year before Operation Paperclip officially brought in a bunch of scientists. So, you know, again, I do understand that there's been a lot of books written about this in Operation Paperclip, and there's been an extensive list of even some of the scientists. But I do think that there's a bit of a smokescreen there, and that some of this data has been seeded basically to throw people off because, you know, again, I think there's good legitimate security reasons for wanting to hide some of the family members of these Nazi scientists, especially, you know, like if they had children and things like that. We wouldn't want to have any assumptions that, you know, the child of a Nazi scientist would be involved with any nefarious activities. However, you know, if you had a family that came from Nazi roots and those Nazi roots stayed steadfast in their current theology, that would indicate that they're not really living as Americans. They're still living as a dissident. They're living as a person that's actually an enemy of the United States. So we have to be able to distinguish, you know, who is actually here in support of the United States as a sovereign nation and who might be serving this agenda that they never really let go of between World War II and now. And there seems to be a lot of evidence out there that that's happening, that there really does seem to be some people that are moving towards a fourth Reich in the United States.
Have people that might share DNA with me.
And they have a lot of exploits
are
into Hollywood,
this agenda,
into very specific networks,
and I am not,
and very specific television shows and studios.
The way that
and I'm not going to be able to talk about these things in detail unless we've had a very frank discussion about everything that I've just talked about.
Things in a very similar way.
We need to be able to talk about the Tule Lake Segregation Center. We need to be able to talk about the very real impact that bringing these
signatures
Nazis
of it,
in
the way they go
to
about
this camp during World War II had.
omission.
We need to talk about some of the reasons why we weren't given
Anyways.
100% of the history involving some of the Operation Paperclip sign.
All right, I kind of ramble on there, but most of what I was trying to show you guys was just these maps. That was really the function of this article. It wasn't to really go deep into things that I was already going into. It's just to show you that literally this is the area right out here. There's a cemetery in Anderson Road, Highway 39. All you have to do is actually, guys, here's the thing. I would say all you have to do, but it's not true. Here's what's trippy, guys. Finding that, if I didn't give you those slides in my presentation, it would actually be difficult for you to find if you just try to look it up using Google Maps. Weird, isn't it? Shouldn't it be easy to find a cemetery like that specific just by punching it into Google Earth? But the last time I checked, and maybe I need to again, but the last time I checked, it'll mismap you. It'll take you to a completely different place on the opposite side of the highway that's about a mile away from the actual one that I'm talking about. It won't, like, you can type it in over and over again, and it just seems to constantly want to mismap you to a different cemetery that is not the Oddfellow cemetery. It'll say like, oh, you mean this other one over here that's not even a cemetery. It doesn't even like look like one when you look at it on the map. It's like a few headstones maybe, but that's it. Like, really? That doesn't look like a cemetery. But the Oddfellow one is a full cemetery. It has full-blown ones that have gone on for decades. People are still getting buried out there. And yet you can punch it into Google Earth and it won't map directly to it. So if you're looking for it, it's in Merrill, Oregon, and you have to find the intersection of Cemetery and Anderson. And it might say IOOF Cemetery. I'm not sure, but I think officially it's called Cemetery Road. Anyways, so that's that. So hopefully that kind of gives you guys an understanding of like where I'm at with this whole the Nazi narrative and things like that, like why I have a little bit of a different perspective on it, sorry, you want to know where it's at? It's in Merrill, Oregon. Here, I'll type it in for you. Merrill, Oregon. Here, Highway 39, intersection of Cemetery. How do I spell cemetery wrong? God, I was a spelling bee. I was in the spelling bee too. Cemetery Road and Anderson. Yeah, so for those wondering, that's it. And there's records on the internet that show that my grandmother's buried there, and my great grandmother, and a whole bunch of great aunts and uncles, and so the reason why that connects to the larger thing that's more like part of a criminal investigation, if somebody wanted to call it that. Wife is buried there. And so again, it was pretty much revealed that he was a serial child molester in the 80s, guys. In the 80s. And his wife, Martha Catherine Hatfield Pettigrew, it was revealed also kind of helped him do things. Like she pretended to be a victim or that she was afraid of him, but in all actuality, she was like his partner. She definitely was afraid of him on some level, but nearly everything he did, he always did with her help in facilitating it, And so again, I don't want to get into the deep, deep, dark shit and again tonight, but I personally know that she was aware and that she was helping him. And so again, guys, somebody asks me here about Pizzagate, and what I'm telling you is I don't even pay attention to that shit because my story's real, and there's a whole bunch of parts of Pizzagate that are fake. There just is, guys. A lot of it's real, don't get me wrong. But what the whole point of what those stories do is to get you focused on fake details of a real case. It really is. It's a lot of spin. If they're letting you see it, and that many people were connected to the narrative, and that many channels talked about it and promoted it as an idea, especially the parties that I know were doing it, it was a cover-up. That thing itself is part of the cover up of a much worse thing involving all the same groups pretty much. So I'm not denying that it's real. I'm telling you that what you were presented in that narrative is in fact fake. But it has combination of real details in it to where I can't tell you that it's fake because elements of it are in fact reality. They're just being obscured by the story that's designed to shock you. And I saw some of the people involved with the faking of the story to know that they're involved with something that's worse. Does that help you understand? Like, they themselves are playing characters in the cast of Pizzagate because they're trying to spin you into Washington, D.C. when their activities are in Washington State. I mean, you see where I'm going with this, guys. I'm not saying it ain't happening. I'm saying that here's how it works. Say something's in Washington State that's a major child trafficking thing that involved something very, very similar. They would take all the details of the Washington State case, find a mirror that has the word Washington in it to create the new storyline. Hence, Pizzagate became largely focused on Washington, D.C. It took elements of a real conspiracy that's connected to Washington State. The people connected to the real conspiracy in Washington State were involved with the media fakery. So a whole bunch of people that you went to and trusted and goes like, wow, they're telling me all the cool things about Pizzagate are actually some of the people that were doing the real thing, that were getting on camera and going like, I'm here to tell you all the latest about Pizzagate. And man, this is really going to shock you. Or they were playing one of the characters in the cast of people that you hated. Or they were one of the people holding up the guy at the pizzeria going like, I'm here to investigate Pizzagate for all the patriots. He wasn't real. He was a crisis actor. So guys, have you figured it out yet? That story was filled with fakery to get everybody worked up on both sides. People that know it's fake are wondering why so many people that are on this conservative Q and patriot type thing are all believing it so rigidly. Myself included. I'm like, you guys are supposed to be smarter than this to where you know that if you're seeing it, there's something else. Even down to Epstein, Nexium, all of these things are part cover, part reality. Some of the parts of the story are real. If it's already been out and it's already been put there, they will do their best to replace the real person with a fake person that gets more media influence. They always do it. That's why you've never heard of me in the mainstream media. I've been replaced over and over and over again. Nexium was one example. I was revealing details connected to companies called Nexius. They use the words Nexius, Nexus, and then they were using technology by NVIDIA. And I was researching this case right as the whole thing got invented about Mark Rayner and Nexium. You see how that's a sigil? How everything I just told you should be like, if you understand magic, guys, if you're more sophisticated, you should understand what I'm saying. They literally took my real case that was connected to Nexius, Nexus, multiple Nexuses. And I have all the research to prove that my dates, time and date stamps predate the whole Nexium cult. So the whole point of this fake story is it works like sigil magic on the collective consciousness. And it literally is sigils and sigil magic, right down to his little tattoo on all the women inside the cult. But the whole story is sigil magic, so that you never learn about mine. If you ever find my slides or ever find my real details, which I can't show most people, that case I showed you about, it's too specific. I gave you as many details as I could. I need like somebody who's actually in an enforcement position to fucking do something about it. And that's not any of you. See, a lot of us are in this, like as far as that being the problem. We have something, we know it's corroborative, we actually have demonstrated evidence, and we have a federal agency in America that goes, nah, you know. But they'll investigate anything that's like a high push button issue that gets everybody like in Duality world. Why? If it pushes a race baiting issue, a gender thing, an LGBTQ thing, any of those issues, the FBI is all over it. And now we're getting all these fake patriot movements, Patriot Front, another 2.03. I mean, guys, come on, man. Patriots don't wear Dockers and COVID masks. and show up in places and protest like that. That's not like that's such a creation of the FBI. It's not even funny. It's like a joke. It's so ridiculous. It's not fooling anybody. We're all here in America kind of going like, who the fuck are they fooling over there? Hey, even the left, like the left just wants to believe it so they can go like, man, we hate those white nationalist conservatives. It's like be patient with them, guys. You can reach some of them eventually, guys. I'm proof of it. You can reach them. See, I'm not changing myself, guys. I'm not joining the Republican Party and slapping an R next to my name. I'm telling you, like I saw your humanity, guys. Like I understand the conservative positions. I found common ground. Now I realize that we're not different. We should just abandon this whole conservative liberal thing. We really need to. It's stupid. It's not really serving us. It's duality world. It's red versus blue, Pepsi versus Coke, AT&T versus Verizon, Star Wars versus Star Trek. It's the chess game, white versus black. Why? Who is it serving? So duality world only keeps those people who want us all inside the fear matrix and like at each other's throats and focused on something that's about each other. That we can't change each other's ethnicity. We can't, and well, some people think we can. See, like me saying that now has become like we're like, no, you're not allowed to say that. Sure, I can. Come on, man. You can't change those things. You can pretend you did, and that's okay. But you're still doing something that's on the level of a video game. You're editing something. It's not nature doing it. And again, if that's your right to do it. But see, but it's also my right not to acknowledge that that's natural. And I don't have to insult you, but I don't have to use your words. That's all. Is that okay, guys? You guys all be free as long as you don't is a number one, nobody can do shit with children, so that ain't cool. But everything else, like if you all want to be whoever you want to be and edit yourselves and things like that, and you're over 18 years old, I think they should make it over 21 at this point because I don't think that people are ready to make decisions that alter their bodies like that. I mean, at least wait until it should match drinking age. Are you shitting me? You're making arguments for a 5-year-old to say they want their balls cut off or they have hormone therapy. But wait 21 to drink. I mean, yeah, that's a good idea, guys. I'm not trying to get everybody to drink earlier. What I'm saying is like, come on, man, what the shit is that about? Like, it's kind of obscene. Like, you know how the outside world views us at this point? We look like a fucking joke. So we all really have to be, we need to all, like, in our own ways, like, copy this model. I don't mean to, like, toot my own horn, but what I do, I need other people to do. Like, I don't want to be the only person. Like, I'm not trying to create some brand or some shit of, like, doing this. I want others to do it. It doesn't have to be exactly what I do, but in your own way, if you have information that you know is equally compelling and that the world needs to know, and your life, they've completely changed and turned around and fucked over or whatever else like that, what have you got to lose? That's all I would say. I mean, what do you got to lose at this point? We should all really just be working more actively to really get behind, like, making this. I have a good body of work to begin with, guys, because it's solid, it's corroborative, and I'm willing to take it to individual people to verify. And I can look at some later date. I'm sure others will step forward and say, like, I'll be able to show you people that I've talked to. They'll go like, yes, I've sat down with Gabriel face to face. He's gone over his information with me face to face, showed me documents, showed me his birth certificate, show me all of his training certificates from the wireless industry. These are things that I'll do for people when I meet them. I give you the whole, show you all my documents. And it's not that much, guys. It only takes like about an hour. But whenever somebody's trying to like verify, is this guy for real? And they actually meet me in physical reality, like, I make sure I'm not some character or avatar. Like, they would have had to been super sophisticated to make a guy like me fake. I'll show you like my yearbooks from school. I mean, places that I've been, all of it. Like, I have all my documentation to back up that I'm a real human being. And I take what I do very seriously because I know the fakery out there is very sophisticated. And that's why I make those efforts to show people things like that. I'm not like trying too hard to verify who I am. I'm saying that in this day and age, a person almost needs to really make sure that people know that they're actually presenting a real history, because a lot of people out there have fake histories. They're presenting a fake reality. They can have multiple fake realities because they're in this network where whoever the labs are, the organizations that are doping and backdooring records can literally just assign one person 3 or 4 different names that they can swim back and forth between and go to different regions and play their different characters. So again, it can make a person's life like a second life video game. You get bored with one environment, they just switch you over to another environment. Oh, well, let's see. We'll change the storyline in that person's reality there, and they can go be this other character for a while. And a lot of these people live their whole lives like that. That's part of why they have personality splits. They don't even really know who the fuck they are anymore because they've been doing this so many years. That's where the cults get into it. And I didn't get that deep into the cults tonight, but that takes too much time, guys. The cult thing needs to be its own presentation. You know something? Oh yeah, so Fredo says, guys, I mentioned you, Fredo, like a day or two ago, but I said there's even a viewer in here, this guy Fred, that you can probably put it in the comments if you want to, but yeah, he mentioned in my chat one time, because he's from the area. Fred's from the area where my family has a lot of political and well, I wouldn't say direct political influence, although that is there, but it's more through, because my dad was at the Department of Energy's Human Resources for a very long time, and he was even a consultant even after he retired, so his influence didn't go away. And then my brother, he didn't leave officially until recently, and he actually did have a position at the Department of Energy for a short period of time, but he's the one that was at Science Applications International Corporation, the company that handled all the Stargate project research and all that, So yeah, Fredo's actually verified in his own way that I am who I am. And I would just say, if you wanted to even take it a step further, man, I would probably contact a guy like Fred if I ever went out to Tri-Cities, just because that's the kind of person, because he's been watching so long and everything, and he has a knowledge of the area. Those are the kind of people that I tend to be interested in having conversations with when I do go to different areas to do reports. So whenever I'm roadworthy again, I'm having some vehicle problems right now, but I hope to be back on the road soon. When the weather permits, you can bet on it, Fred. I'll definitely be going out to Tri-Cities to do some significant amount of reporting, because I want that part of this whole story. I want that to be very, very much I want that to be a whole part of everything. I don't want that to ever be obscured or anything like that. So I'm going to probably go out there and spend significant time, maybe like a week or two, as much as I don't want to. But that way I can show people like where my farm was. I'll give the whole history. I'll be like, this is where I went to school. This is the farm. This is the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. Here's the politics of the area. I'm going to do extensive reporting and give people a history of the reservation and the whole culture like they've never seen before. Hopefully I can self-fund it right now, guys. Right now I'm experiencing, like, I'm teetering right now, where if I don't get my issues resolved very, very quickly, I could lose a lot of the momentum I gained and everything else like that because of all my vehicle problems. So that's my biggest challenge right now, guys. I have to find a reliable vehicle somewhere in the Northwest that's within a reasonable, attainable distance. And so I don't want to get too deep in that topic, though, because I want this to be relevant later. I need to talk about Runaway, though, before I end this. So let me get to that. Oh, crap. That's not what I meant to do. All right, so this is Runaway, and the reason why I wanted to why did it go away? Okay, I wanted to get people's attention on this one because it's a pretty cool film, starring it's based on it's based on a Michael Crichton either book, or I don't know if it was a book, but it was a screenplay and directed by Michael Crichton, and it has Tom Selleck, Cynthia Rhodes, and Kirstie Alley as some of the main characters, and then Gene Simmons is the villain. I'm going to be doing a more detailed analysis on this one, guys, so I'm not going to do like a whole bunch on it tonight, but I wanted this to be I wanted you guys to take a look at the material and like watch it sometime if you're interested in this type of thing. Because to me, this is really probably one of the most realistic portrayals of AI that I've ever seen. I'm kind of worried I'm going to get copyright struck if I keep playing that in the background, though. Hang on. Okay, there it is. But it was really trippy to me, guys, because I've done a lot of material on the whole Gene Simmons connection. I don't have that. You know what? I'm going to save that for when I do the next article on Runaway. I'll play you my material on Gene Simmons because, yeah, there's something going on with that name where they're obscuring one name and elevating another one. And it's really weird because now Gene Simmons is in the news suddenly. It's strange, guys, because there's things that I talk about in private that I don't even talk to you guys about. And then sometimes I do actually present it on YouTube. And I'll give you an example. Like, I think this is a timeline movie. Like, it was giving us warnings about Boston Robotics and advanced robotic technology and some of the pitfalls that we were going to be encountering in the future. I think there's sometimes when a movie is just simply very accurate in its prediction. And I think there's other times where the reason why it's so accurate in its prediction has less to do with, quote, predictive programming or somebody that's trying to manipulate things. And sometimes it's literally part of a defense related project or simply just some benevolent group. But I think it's a combination of both: a benevolent group of people that are in the entertainment industry as in tandem with a defense group that has been working with this technology to send things back so that we can have information that work like time capsules to tell us, like, okay, guys, you're being trained with this entertainment simultaneously. Sometimes, like, a lot of it is garbage and a lot of it is just junk and there's no value in it, and it is there to fuck with your head. But some of it really does have some good information in it that can warn you about things in a realistic way. To me, Runaway is really good in that regard because, number one, like, the robots themselves, the way they move in the movie, it wasn't a very realistic portrayal. They had to do things to make them look like they could jump around and do the things that they do. Whereas now in Boston Robotics has made devices that do exactly what the robots in Runaway do. In fact, they make the robots in Runaway look like a joke. So now Boston Robotics has produced something that's exceeded the science fiction of 1984. This movie came out in 1984. And I would argue that some of the robots that you see in this movie that they would talk about was a dystopian future that we had to be worried about, they're already in existence. So again, we've seen now that they're in existence, but thus far, they're under control. Thus far. So again, I think that's why Runaway, I would kind of recommend it as people kind of watch. It's pretty decent. I think they did a really good job with discussing the ethics of AI and robotics and things of that nature while making a really good, competent action movie simultaneously. So I wanted to recommend it, for both decent entertainment, also for, whatever else like that. I'm trying to think why else I was trying to mention Runaway. There was something else I wanted to bring up involving that. No, I'm going to save that one. I'm going to save that for a much larger discussion because there's like a lot of timeline type things going on. And those unfamiliar, I'll say it again. Well, yeah, I just said it, guys. Timeline films are basically where I believe it involved things involving Project Rainbow and Project Talent and some other things where the military was conscious that we would be existing in a future where this exact thing was going to happen. They knew we would be facing this challenge, or rather, they received information that we would be in this exact challenge that we're in right now. And think about what an F situation this is to explain decades before or after to a cult, to a civilization that isn't experiencing it. This is so comic book insane, the reality that we're living in right now. How would you make a compelling case to somebody in 1985 that what's going to happen now is happening the way it is, coming from the places that it is? Because we had a whole different perception about where the threat was. but it's almost like they're trying to re-inspire that threat because it's not accurate, but they want us to believe the same thing is accurate today as they were trying to make us believe in the 80s. It's really, really bizarre. But oh, I only got a few minutes I'm going to spend here on the end here, but I did want to say that there's another film, guys. Speaking of not William H. Macy, sorry, but well, yeah, it does make me think of him because William H. Macy's been in some P.T. Anderson films. But just to cap this off on something positive, guys, I did actually see something that came out of Hollywood that made me feel like there's still somebody out there making good movies, and it's P.T. Anderson's Licorice Pizza. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen this movie. It has, I'm not into the band Haim, but I've never really heard their songs. But I guess it has one of the singers from that band, Alana Haim. She's like the female lead, and Cooper Hoffman, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, I think it's his debut in acting, and he's really, really good. Because I kept on thinking the whole time, he's really reminding me of somebody. He's got this energy to him that's very familiar, and he's a lot like his dad. It was really cool to see him in this really nice, sweet-hearted coming of age comedy that all takes place like in the 70s era, where he's like in Hollywood and he's kind of immersed in the Hollywood culture. And so he does things like interact with producers, and there's these great comedic scenes. Like I posted one on my Twitter page. I can't show you the scene here, obviously, because I get copyright struck, but there's this whole like long scene where he meets John Peters, the producer, who's, for those unfamiliar, like within Hollywood, that guy was known as being kind of like a real ball breaker, kind of obnoxious, had a real eccentric personality, and he dated Barbara Streisand and got her career in like going pretty strong in film. Like he got her into the main event and Wish You Were, something else. I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, the main event and something else. She did a bunch of rom-coms with Barbara Streisand. So there's this whole scene with Cooper Hoffman, and it's Bradley Cooper plays John Peters, the producer, where he keeps correcting them on how to say Barbara Streisand. It's like, it's Barbara Streisand. He's like, Barbara Streisand. It's like, no, Streisand. He's like, Barbara Streisand. He's like, and he looks at the other guy like, it's like, Streisand. No, sand. Streisand. Just over and over again. It's one of those things you have to see, but I wanted to tell you guys about it because it's one of the only times I've watched a movie where it just affirmed the idea that of love. It was really wonderful and warm as I've ever seen, and it just had this like just wonderful pacing to it and everything else like that. So I don't know, guys, you can make up your own mind of what you think of it, but Licorice Pizza by P.T. Anderson, I was super impressed with it. It's one of the only times like a movie ends, and at the end of it, I was like I felt so warm inside about how nice it was and how it ended with such a warm, like pure-hearted like sentiment. Just somebody saying that they love somebody, in such a sweet natured way. It was so beautiful. It really made me, I'm getting choked up thinking about it, actually. It's such a beautiful movie. I better get offline before I start getting all crybaby on you guys or some shit. But no, guys, seriously, great movie to watch. I really recommend it. It really did make my day to see it. It was like a really beautiful film, and funny, a little bit absurd at times, and a little bit, but very tense, filled with tension. It's almost like it does for like a romantic film. Like it has like a thriller's pacing. It's like watching a Brian De Palma film, but the payout is like this great romantic payout. So for those who like that kind of thing, even if you don't, it's still a cool movie. So, all right, guys, enjoy. Have a good evening. Take care, or have a good night. I'll see you the next time. Bye.